Chapter 2151. If that young master came looking for her, she would kill him to establish her dominance. When Ning Shu was exchanging, she found that there were many cultivators who wanted to take advantage of her. If she established her dominance, they would be obedient when exchanging in the future. Ning Shu also wanted them to cause trouble for her. Seeing the room full of jade bottles filled with spirit liquid, Ning Shu was a little surprised and asked, 2333, did you do this? How rare, she had never seen such a proactive 2333. I saw that you were busy, so I helped to store the spirit liquid. 2333 said. Ning Shu stored the spirit liquid in her ring space and prepared to exchange for more. The more she exchanged, the more soul energy she would get, and maybe even more soul origin. Probably because he thought that she wouldn't be able to get the soul stones in the ring space, this young master exchanged for mostly high-grade soul stones that were relatively pure. Some of the soul stones even had a golden color in them. The golden color was soul origin, it was good stuff, she got lucky. But the other party didn't lose out, after all, she gave him the spirit liquid, so it was already a deal. That young master probably couldn't take it lying down. Ning Shu was just about to go to the Nine Palace Mountain when she heard a notification from the chat system. Someone had sent her a message. Ning Shu turned back and laid on the sofa. She opened the chat system and saw that it was a message from the main system. Main system, look for this type of soul stone, it's more valuable. There was also a picture attached. In the picture, the soul stone had golden threads mixed in it, strand by strand. Ning Shu was speechless. She knew that this type of soul stone was better, but it wasn't easy to find. It was purely a coincidence that she found such a high-quality soul stone this time. Ning Shu really hoped that she could have her own soul stone mine, there would definitely be such high-quality soul stones in it. Ning Shu could only say, I'll try my best. If she could find it, then she would look for it. If she couldn't find it, then she could only pull it. Ning Shu was already very satisfied with the extra soul energy. Main system, don't try your best, you must find this type of soul stone first. Ning Shu, you can't have a soul stone just because you want it. How could they force him like this? Soul stones of this quality should be very rare. The main system cut off the connection, and then the contact information disappeared from her chat system. Ning Shu was speechless. Although she didn't know why he always disappeared after saying that it was troublesome, could it be that he was afraid that she would harass him? She wasn't bored enough to harass a system, look at how pretentious and arrogant she is, it was as if others liked to talk to him. Why don't you just blacklist me? Contact me through the radio. Ning Shu cursed inwardly and prepared to go to Nine Palace Mountain. Since he had not done any quests yet, he wanted to exchange for more soul stones. Every soul stone he collected would give him more soul power, and many soul stones would give him more soul power. The feeling of collecting was amazing. Lalala was still storing the elixir. Why did it feel like a demon that had existed for billions of years would do something like this? It was especially strange. For the sake of a bit of soul energy, he was so busy. He had probably been poor for a long time. Sigh, poor bastard. As soon as Ning Shu stepped into the black hole, the chat system beeped again. Ning Shu retracted his foot and opened the chat system. Who was it this time? The person who sent him the message this time was the Time City Lord, the Chongsam man, asking him to gather at the Time City. All the law incarnations had to go. Ning Shu hurriedly asked, did something happen? All the law incarnations had to go. Ning Shu's heart skipped a beat. Usually, nothing good would happen if they gathered together like this. The Chongsam man, just come. I don't know the details. Pay more attention to the chat group in the future. You don't seem to appear in it, so I have to inform you alone. Ning Shu nodded and opened the Law Incarnations group. After the incident with Hongyu, Ning Shu basically did not appear in this chat group. He could not talk to these people, and because of Hongyu, many of them attacked him. Although Hongyu was dead now, it was still very awkward. Moreover, instead of wasting time in the chat group, Ning Shu might as well go to Nine Palace Mountain to exchange for soul stones. Since he could not integrate, Ning Shu did not force himself to integrate. He quietly did his own things and followed his plan. The chat group was filled with discussions about why the law incarnations had gathered together. Some people felt that it might be another round of punishment to warn the monkeys. Those who were more familiar with the organization's nature first thought of this. If they committed a crime, they would be dealt with directly. As soon as this was said, many people's buttholes tightened, including Ning Shu. They were all wondering if they had done something out of line recently. Ning Shu's legs trembled. Last time, she had escaped death, but she was still a fugitive. Could it be that they were going to kill her this time? The more Ning Shu thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. It couldn't be, right? To kill her, they had to gather so many people together and then watch her get killed. Ning Shu asked the Cheongsam man, "What's going on? Do you have any information? Are they coming for me?" "I don't think so." The Cheongsam man said uncertainly. He was present during the last conflict, and at that time, the judge did not kill her. Damn, it was not easy for him to have some hope in life, but in the end, something like this happened. Ning Shu wanted to fuck someone. Ning Shu asked 2333, "Do you think I'll be fine since I've built something like a reincarnation world?" "I don't think so. Instead of thinking blindly here, it's better to go. Once you go, you'll know what's going on. You're just scaring yourself like a lunatic," 2333 said. "What if it's not what you think? Don't think too highly of yourself. If everyone gathers to kill you, will you die a good death?" Ning Shu was speechless. It seemed that she was not that important. Now that the organization's prices were rising, something must have happened to the organization. Her situation was not a problem at all. She was really scaring herself. Ning Shu prepared himself mentally. He placed the ring space on the coffee table. He could not exchange it for soul stones, and he still had to worry about it. What a scam. Ning Shu said to 2333, "Then let's go to the Time City." Ning Shu's head was slightly dizzy, and he appeared in the Time City. Maybe it was because his soul was stronger. During the teleportation process, he did not have such a strong feeling of discomfort. Walking in the City of Time, Ning Shu felt that the city was a little distorted. The things she saw felt like a mirage, but it also felt like a lifetime had passed. She also felt that she couldn't grasp time. She felt an inexplicable fear and melancholy. Time flew, and he felt that he had walked for a long time, but he still did not reach the Cheongsam man's restaurant. This was the power of the law of time. The law of time was a very powerful law. Nothing could escape the destruction of time. Chapter 2152. Ning Shu didn't expect that the man in the Cheongsam, who couldn't get a girlfriend and only dared to flirt with her, was actually an incarnation of the law of time. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Envy. Moreover, it seemed like he was the leader of the law incarnations. He was the one who informed others about everything. Ning Shu walked to the restaurant in a daze. She felt as if a lifetime had passed, leaving her in a trance. There were already many people in the restaurant. When the man in the Cheongsam saw Ning Shu, he opened his fan and fanned himself. He asked Ning Shu elegantly, "What would you like to eat?" Ning Shu. Inexplicably disillusioned. Ning Shu sat on a chair. "Anything. Give me a glass of water." The man in the Cheongsam snapped his fingers and the waiter served a cup of coffee. There was even a heart in the coffee. Ning Shu thought she was going to start flirting again. Ning Shu was a little nervous. He took a sip of the coffee and looked around. He didn't see Ah Wan, so he asked the man in the Cheongsam, "Where's Ah Wan?" "Oh, One said she had something to do and couldn't come. Ning Shu was envious. She didn't want to come just because she said she didn't want to, unlike them who had to come no matter how much they didn't want to. In the group of law incarnations, Ning Shu only knew the man in the Cheongsam. He didn't know anyone else. There was no need to know them. Ning Shu wanted to ask the man in the Cheongsam if he knew what had happened, but when he saw that he had gone to entertain others, he shut up and didn't ask. Ning Shu sat on his seat and drank his coffee. He was a little nervous and ordered 2 plates of pastries. It was best to eat something when one was nervous. Many people came one after another. People almost filled the entire restaurant hall. It seemed like there were too many different kinds of laws. Didn't they say there were 3,000 great Tao? There were less than 3,000. After all, not every law had a law incarnation. Some laws couldn't have a law imprint without being comprehended to the extreme. Ning Shu quickly stuffed pastries into his mouth. In any case, he couldn't eat as a soul. Moreover, he was really nervous. He was afraid that he would be obliterated. He was so scared. His heart was so tired. She didn't know if that world, which she suspected to be the world of reincarnation, could prevent her from being obliterated. Strictly speaking, she was still a fugitive, but she had no choice but to walk right into the trap. If he had known this would happen, he would have said that he would have gone to do his own quest and avoided it as much as possible. Ning Shu finished the 2 plates of pastries and a cup of coffee. The Cheongsam man was speechless. What a terrifying appetite. Even in their soul state, some women wouldn't eat a lot. Sometimes, they didn't eat to fill their stomachs, but to compensate for their desire for good food. Just a taste was enough, there was no need to eat plate by plate. Ning Shu originally wanted to ask for more food, but with so many people looking at him, and all of them putting on airs of being law incarnations, Ning Shu felt that he couldn't lower himself too much. Those who knew each other whispered to each other. Ning Shu didn't know anyone, so he played with his fingers. As time went by, the atmosphere in the restaurant hall became more and more solemn. No one was in the mood to chat. Everyone was pressured. No one knew why they were called here. Ning Shu knew too well what it was like to wait like this. Sometimes, he would be scared to death. Ning Shu shook his legs. God knew who he was waiting for. The important people would appear last. Ning Shu only hoped that it wasn't a judge. He prayed silently in his heart. Just as he finished praying, Ning Shu saw a wisp of black floating in from the corner of his eye. Ning Shu's body stiffened, and he immediately shrunk into a ball. What he was afraid of really happened. Senior Uncle walked into the hall in a black windbreaker, followed by the silver-haired man. The silver-haired man held a book in his hand and followed behind Senior Uncle. When Ning Shu saw these 2 people appear at the same time, his mind couldn't help but wander. God knew what these 2 people were doing. Ning Shu tried to reduce his presence and even wanted to slip away. He couldn't blame society for his bad luck, but Ning Shu wanted to curse. Couldn't they give him a way out? Senior Uncle found a chair and wiped it with a handkerchief. He sat down and said to everyone, "Do you know why I called you here?" Everyone shook their heads in unison and straightened their backs like primary school students. Senior Uncle said, "It's not a big deal. I just need you to donate some money." Ning Shu was speechless. Donation? How could there be such a suffocating operation? Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. At least she wasn't here to kill her. Everyone looked at each other. Donation? Mandatory? Because something happened to the organization, we need everyone to donate some money. Merit and faith are okay, the silver-haired man said gently. As he spoke, he took out a machine that swiped identity cards. It felt like he was collecting money. He wasn't borrowing money, but asking people to donate money. In the future, they wouldn't be able to get the money back. He guessed that he was collecting a lot of tax money and asked people to donate. Ning Shu wanted to ask if it was okay to donate points, but when he saw senior uncle sitting on the side, he didn't dare to show his face. What if he shot him? Ning Shu felt that her life was bitter. Since she became the city lord of Water City, the tax arrears had been a hot topic. It wasn't easy for her to collect taxes in peace, but now she had to donate. This was digging her flesh. The man in the cheongsam opened his folding fan and asked flirtatiously, "How do you want to donate? Can you donate more or less? How about this? Everyone has 10% as a donation," the silver-haired man said gently. Ning Shu almost smashed the dessert plate on the table on the face of this profiteer. 10%. Not only did Ning Shu's face turn green, but the others couldn't help but whisper. If the property was small, 10% wouldn't be a big deal. But if the taxes were high, the wealth would be high. 10% was quite considerable. For example, Ning Shu had 845,211 merit points and 270,6980 faith power. According to the 10% donation, Ning Shu had to donate 84,521 merit points and 270,698 faith power. Ning Shu just did a little calculation, and his face turned black. He had to donate more than 80,000 merit points and 270,000 faith power. 270,000, what kind of concept was that? How many spirit stones could she buy? How many soul stones could she exchange? Ning Shu was so distressed that he couldn't breathe. He looked at the others and saw that they were all green. Ning Shu wanted to ask if it was okay to not donate, but when he saw senior uncle in black sitting there, he didn't have the courage to speak at all. Senior uncle said, "Everyone donates. It's not without benefits. If you make a mistake in the future, you can be forgiven once. It can't be a big mistake." Ning Shu thought, it's like the red ink iron certificate. The man in the cheongsam side took out his identity card and swiped it on the machine. Ning Shu looked at his twitching face and guessed that he was forced to donate a lot. He just didn't know if it was as much as her. Ning Shu was about to suffocate. More than 300,000. My God! The others also began to donate one after another. Even if it wasn't a pardon, it was impossible not to donate. Ning Shu took her time and stood at the back of the queue. Chapter 2153. What happened to the organization and where these donations were going to be used were not transparent at all. Who knew if these two people wanted to accumulate wealth? However, at least there was some gain from donating. Did it mean that she wouldn't be hunted down all day long? However, with more than 300,000 merit points, Ning Shu didn't think it was a big deal to live like a mouse. The law avatars who had donated all looked pale. Some of them felt as if they were digging meat out of their bodies. Ning Shu felt the same because it was her turn. Suddenly, she couldn't live anymore. A law avatar in front of Ning Shu swiped his card. When it was Ning Shu's turn, Ning Shu took out her ID card. Seeing the silver-haired man and grand uncle staring at her, she trembled even more. She was afraid that they would pull out a gun and shoot her. 2333 had saved her last time. She didn't know if he could save her this time. After all, she was caught off guard. If it happened again, the other party would definitely act quickly. Ning Shu felt very sad for herself. This feeling of her soul being frozen and the fear that went deep into her soul. Ning Shu took out her ID card and swiped it. More than 300,000 worth of assets left her. Ning Shu wanted to ask where these merit points and the power of faith would be used, but when she saw Grand Uncle in black, she decisively shut up and prepared to run away. Wait for me to build the world, wait for me to build the world of living beings, Ning Shu silently encouraged herself in her heart. Wait a minute. Grand Uncle called out to Ning Shu. Ning Shu's body stiffened, but she looked at her calmly. Grand Uncle raised his chin in the direction of the card machine. Swipe again. Why? Ning Shu was furious. Swiping again would cost her 300,000. Even if they wanted to take advantage of her, they couldn't take advantage of her alone. Of course it's to offset the punishment, Granduncle said coldly. Swipe. Swipe your ass. It's not like I'm swiping your money. Ning Shu tried to control his emotions. Didn't you say that you can get a waiver if you donate? I've already donated. Yes, there is one exemption, but this is your first exemption. The Granduncle looked at Ning Shu. He probably wanted to pull out his gun. The silver-haired man gently said to Ning Shu, then let's do it. Fuck, these two black-hearted people, only mentioning this matter after the first time. If she didn't agree, they would probably shoot her to death. Was he trying to avoid a disaster by spending money? If he did it again, he wouldn't have to hide from the judges anymore. 300,000, another 300,000. Ning Shu felt that his heart, liver, spleen, and lungs were in pain. Ning Shu's hands trembled as he extended his ID card towards the credit card machine. Even his lips were trembling. Ning Shu felt a chill in his heart. When would he be able to get rid of this situation where he was at the mercy of others? It hadn't been long since he became a mission enforcer. He wasn't like these old monsters who had existed for who knew how long. The Granduncle put on his gloves and took the card from Ning Shu's hand. He swiped it neatly and then handed the card back to Ning Shu. Congratulations, you're no longer a fugitive. Ning Shu trembled. Fuck you, son of a bitch. Ning Shu took his card. In any case, his bad premonition had been confirmed. Sure enough, it wasn't his life but his money. Ning Shu received a wave of sympathetic gazes. It was fine if they swiped it, but the water law incarnation had swiped it twice. After exploiting the law incarnation, he probably had to rush to the next place. Who knew who he'd be exploiting next? The silver-haired man put away the credit card machine with a gentle expression. Through his gentle face, Ning Shu saw a black-hearted heart thumping. These two together were invincible in the world. Two bitches. The Granduncle stood up with white gloves on his hands. He looked at him and said indifferently, pay attention to your words and actions. Although you have immunity once, don't be complacent and do anything out of line that will harm your own life. It wasn't easy for everyone to get to this point. Don't make a mistake. Ning Shu could only keep comforting himself. He comforted himself that when the next tax came, at least he wouldn't have to hide anymore. There were gains and losses, and there were gains and losses. Ning Shu looked at the Granduncle in black clothes and white gloves. He didn't know what had happened to the organization and whether such donations would continue. If this happened a few more times, Ning Shu would feel that he was penniless. He was so poor that he only had his underwear. In short, the atmosphere wasn't right. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. He didn't care too much about the 600,000 that had been donated. Thinking about it made him feel bad. Anyway, the atmosphere wasn't right recently. Even the judges went to the sea to ask people to donate. This kind of behavior was very degrading. However, they were quite tough. They directly asked people to donate 10% of their assets. Wasn't it the same as donating more or less? How could they force people like that? If they didn't give or gave less, would they kill people? At least, Ning Shu didn't dare to say a word. Wait until I build the world of living beings, he. After the Granduncle and the silver-haired man left, the stagnant air slowly flowed. Then, everyone started to discuss. Ning Shu asked the Cheongsam man, do you know what happened? The Cheongsam man fanned himself with his fan. He looked a little irritated. I don't know. You don't know? Ning Shu asked. The Cheongsam man shook his head. Ning Shu asked again, will there be more donations? The Cheongsam man stopped fanning himself. Anyway, let's prepare for this. Ning Shu looked at his balance and suddenly felt a pain in his heart. He felt like he had returned to the time before he was liberated. The money was lost, and he didn't know how the money was used. Previously, the organization had been fine. What exactly had happened? Ning Shu thought that if he didn't have an organization, he wouldn't be able to survive. Maybe he could have a chance to start over and be reincarnated. If he was reincarnated, Ning Shu would be very unwilling. Ning Shu said to the Chongsam man, "I'm leaving." With so many people in the same boat, it would only be more pitiful if they gathered together. The Chongsam man wasn't in the mood to chat anymore. He nodded and didn't say anything. Ning Shu went to his water city. This was his money nest. He had to protect it well. After strengthening the enchantment, Ning Shu wandered around Si Tian's auction house to see if there were any light and dark world origins. As for the thing that Xiaohua was incubating, Ning Shu suspected that it wouldn't be able to hatch. Maybe it wasn't a world origin at all. Ning Shu had to be prepared for both sides. If there were, he could buy it. The purpose of money was to buy what he needed. The 600,000 donated was enough for him to buy 2 world origins. He couldn't think about it. His heart ached. Every time Ning Shu came, Si Tian would personally entertain him. His attitude was very good. Ning Shu always felt that this person wanted to sell him something again. Probably in Si Tian's eyes, he was a fat sheep. He was stupid and had a lot of money. Ning Shu asked Si Tian if there was any light and dark elemental world origin. Si Tian shook his head. No. City Lord, you can look at the others/BK. Chapter 2154. Ning Shu saw that Si Tian was going to sell her some inexplicable things again, so she left immediately. She had already donated so much money, so she really didn't have any money left. There were so many treasures in the world, and she couldn't take all of them for herself. She didn't have that much money, and she didn't have that ability. Moreover, she didn't know if such donations would happen again. The more assets a person had, the more they would donate. After all, they had to donate 10% of their total assets. She probably wasn't a rich person, and the Chongsam man was probably a rich person. His face turned green when he donated. Thinking of this, Ning Shu suddenly had the urge to spend all her assets so that she wouldn't have to donate any money. However, if she only donated this time, she would spend all her money. If she encountered something she desperately needed in the future, her pockets would be cleaner than her face. That would be awkward. Not only would it be awkward, but if she missed it and it was bought by someone else, she wouldn't even have a place to cry. After thinking about it, Ning Shu decided not to spend the money she had. God knew if this was a way to stimulate economic consumption. Everyone was afraid of donations, so they wanted to spend as much money as possible. However, the current prices were 4 times higher. It was really, there was a pit in front of her, and there was also a pit behind her. She was in a dilemma. She couldn't live anymore. Ning Shu looked at Si Tian, who was dressed in dark clothes and wide sleeves. She felt that this kind of person should also be exploited by the organization. He must be rich, and he was so evil. Ning Shu wasn't in a good mood now, and she wasn't in the mood to listen to Si Tian's introduction of anything. She wouldn't buy anything even if he introduced her. Now she mainly spent on buying spirit stones. After all, spirit stones were related to the soul stones she exchanged for, and the soul stones were related to the strength of her soul. She only hoped that the organization's matter could be solved quickly. Otherwise, everyone would be exhausted. After leaving the auction house, Ning Shu went to the silver-haired man's consultation room to see if he was there. She wanted to ask about the soaring prices during this period of time. The people's hearts were unstable, and the people above were wantonly collecting the power of faith and merit. Something must have happened. However, the organization didn't intend to let everyone know. They probably felt that it was useless for them to know, so they didn't bother to tell them. The consultation room was empty. The silver-haired man was not there. The sign that said business was suspended was covered in dust. Obviously, he had gone to ask for money. They stopped doing business. Ning Shu sighed. He decided to go to his own city lord manor and carefully sense the water laws outside the city. It was better to cultivate here as he could get closer to the water laws. Although he could control water, he was still far from being able to control water perfectly. Ning Shu hoped that one day, he would be able to use the law of water to print out other powerful laws. The law of water could be used for both offense and defense. It could be gentle, but it was also very ferocious. It was ever-changing, so how could it not be able to deal with the other laws? Ning Shu actually really wanted to defeat the Edict of Destruction. Once his living world was formed, Ning Shu felt that he had only been a task-taker for a short period of time. If he had been a task-taker in ancient times, he would not have felt that he did not have enough time. Alright, time wasn't a problem. Behind her, there should be a lot of pink and tender mission enforcers who stumbled around like her, ignorant and ignorant. Everyone had gone through the same thing, so they felt that it was very fair. Ning Shu meditated for a long time in the city lord manor. When he woke up, his body was covered in water vapor. Even his soul felt like it was about to turn into water. Ning Shu touched his soul. Was he going to turn into water? There were benefits to turning into water. Using softness to overcome hardness, cutting water with a knife would make it flow. This meant that the defensive ability of water was better. Perhaps his soul would turn into droplets of water and eventually gather back together. This feeling was not bad. Anyway, he was the embodiment of the law of water. Even if he turned into water, it would not be a problem. Moreover, he could absorb more soul power. Wouldn't that be better? Just like the law of nothingness. It looked like a tank of water, but it could swallow and assimilate so many things. Thinking about it, it was not bad. Ning Shu closed his eyes. Countless water droplets around him rushed towards Ning Shu's soul, filling up Ning Shu's soul. Ning Shu felt that his soul was in great pain. It was as if it was being torn apart. All the soul tribes were being reorganized. Even his consciousness was blurry. In the end, Ning Shu fell asleep. In his dream, there were all kinds of eerie quietness. There were even all kinds of faces. There were both men and women. These people all had one thing in common, which was that there was a water droplet in between their eyebrows. Could this be the previous owner of the law imprint? If she could obtain the law imprint of water, it meant that these people were already dead. Could this be a hazy imprint left behind by the law imprint? What kind of existence was the imprint? Did it choose its owner automatically or was it unconscious? Ning Shu was forced to watch one scene after another. All kinds of magnificent scenes, killing enemies, and floods that covered the sky destroyed everything. Ning Shu's head was about to explode. However, he had also learned some offensive techniques. When Ning Shu woke up, his head was buzzing as if it was about to explode. Ning Shu sighed. Wasn't this decision too hasty? Ning Shu touched her own soul. It was as if she had reached her hand into a lake. What was going on with the ripples that were spreading out? Ning Shu also admired himself. He really did come up with ideas. Now, his soul had completely turned into water. Ning Shu cut off his own arm. The cut-off arm turned into a ball of water. Under Ning Shu's command, it merged back into his soul. Ning Shu grew an arm. In the past, if a part of his soul was cut off, the soul power in that part would dissipate and not return to the body. However, if it turned into water, it could still return to his body. Ning Shu stretched his waist. His skirt and sleeves shook as if they had their own weight. There was a fine luster on them. Ning Shu stood up and turned around. The skirt also followed suit. It looked very textured. Touching his hair, a mirror appeared in front of him. Ning Shu looked at himself in the mirror. It seemed that he had been reborn. The water droplet between his eyebrows was engraved into his flesh and bones. His eyebrows were more expressive. Whether a person was beautiful or not depended on their mental state. Ning Shu felt that his current mental state was very good. Even his face had become more lively. It was no longer the incomparably pale face from before. Although his face didn't change much, Ning Shu felt that it was quite good. It was a pity that he was still so thin and short. Well, he was already more energetic. Very good. The most important thing was that the soul that was damaged by an attack could return to his own soul. Ning Shu returned to the system space and saw that the system space was full of jade bottles. There wasn't even a place to step. 2333, you're too diligent. This made Ning Shu feel a lot of pressure. What if he couldn't exchange all of them? Chapter 2155. The water level in the pool had dropped a little. In the past, he thought the pool was useless and placed it in the system space as a place to admire the flowers and fish. Now that he knew it was useful, he started to exploit it. It was unbearable to watch. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and asked 2333, "Do you feel any changes in me?" "No," 2333 said casually. Ning Shu did not mind 2333's perfunctory answer and asked, "Do you think there are any side effects after merging my soul into water?" 2333 then noticed the mark between Ning Shu's eyebrows. It was shining brightly. "There are no side effects, but it's good for the client. Your soul is now a pool of water, so it won't do any harm to your body. After all, two souls have used a body, so there will be some wear and tear. It would be better if it was water." "Is that so?" Water was something that the human body needed. "Let's go in exchange for the soul stones." "Don't talk about these useless things," 2333 said. Ning Shu was speechless. 2333 probably only had the soul stones in his heart now. There was nothing else. Ning Shu kept the jade bottle and prepared to exchange it at the Nine Palace Mountain. She was not sure if her soul could enter the second level. What if she could not return to the first level after entering the second level? She still had a fish tank on the first level. Ning Shu wanted to take a look at the fish tank. She wondered how the fish tank absorbed the attacks around the soul stone mine. When Ning Shu appeared in the Nine Palace Mountain, some people immediately ran away when they saw her. Ning Shu did not plan to set up a stall in this city. She changed to another place. Ning Shu did not want to unify this place. Everything she did was for the soul stones. She did not want to cause any trouble. Amiability breeds wealth. Amiability breeds wealth. Ning Shu decided to let it go. However, someone was coming in her direction angrily. It was the young master who was wearing a brocade robe. There was a servant beside him and a large group of people behind him. Ning Shu was speechless. The young master looked at Ning Shu. He felt that this woman had changed after not seeing her for a while. He had heard from the servants that she had appeared. He had sent people to look for her but to no avail. Now that she had appeared again, did she emerge from the ground? If it wasn't for the droplet-shaped makeup between her eyebrows, it would have been hard to tell. "Aren't we even now? Is the deal over?" Ning Shu said with a cold face. She walked towards young master. Her skirt fell and swayed along with Ning Shu's movements. There was an indescribable feeling. Young master looked at Ning Shu's skirt and wondered what material it was made of. Can a soul change clothes? It's not up to you to decide whether the money is cleared or not. The young master said, "You should know what you're doing." "I'm not sure," Ning Shu said directly. The young master's anger was stuck in his heart. Looking at Ning Shu's nonchalant attitude, he became even more annoyed. Ning Shu said, "Didn't everyone come here according to the exchange conditions? How did you lose out?" He. The young master laughed coldly. Are you sure? I'm sure. Did I give you too much spiritual liquid? You actually want to return it to me? You're really a good person, Ning Shu said. Crazy. The young master's mouth twitched. He hated people who pretended to be stupid. Ning Shu, if you have the ability, say that you want to take it by force. Go. The young master waved his hand and said to the thugs behind him, capture him alive. I want him to become an artifact spirit. An artifact spirit was the soul of an artifact. This kind of artifact spirit had more spiritual energy and was more powerful. Some souls that weren't that strong would be refined into an artifact spirit in the end. These thugs weren't weak. Their aura covered the sky and pressed down on Ning Shu. Ning Shu flicked his finger. A drop of water that was like a small steel ball directly hit the thug. The thug who was hit by the water droplet felt as if he had been hit by a huge mountain. The bones in his body instantly cracked. His internal organs were seriously injured. He lay on the ground and vomited blood. More and more people gathered around. They didn't know how this woman offended young Master Chu. Young Master Chu looked at Ning Shu and pulled out his sword. The sword flew in the air and transformed into countless swords that pierced towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu stood still. Many of the swords passed through Ning Shu's body like passing through water. Then, they didn't cause any damage to Ning Shu's body. Ning Shu stood there perfectly fine. The flying sword turned back into a sword and flew back into young Master Chu's hand. Young Master Chu's face turned green as he grabbed the sword hilt. He looked at Ning Shu. What kind of monster is this? Ning Shu lowered his head and looked at his soul. This was the benefit of water. It couldn't be attacked. Ning Shu flicked his finger at young Master Chu and sent him flying. He hit the wall and fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Although it was just a small drop of water, it was heavier than a mountain. When it hit a person, it was like a huge mountain had hit them. This feeling was even greater than a large truck that could drive 100 kilometers per hour. Fortunately, he was a cultivator and had a strong body. Otherwise, with this weight, ordinary people would have died long ago. Young Master Chu stood up. He clutched his chest and looked at Ning Shu maliciously. This matter won't be settled just like this. Ning Shu's eyes suddenly turned sharp. He wanted to kill this person. Ning Shu felt that no matter where he went, there seemed to be people who wanted to covet his things. Previously, it was the auction house. Now, it was young Master Chu. Everyone just had to follow the rules. During the exchange, you played petty tricks. I have the ability to open the ring space, so it's mine. Everyone can rely on their abilities to make a living. Now, what was the meaning of this? People who kept finding trouble with her were as annoying as flies. Ning Shu walked towards young Master Chu with a murderous aura. Since this matter can't be settled, then I will kill you. Let's see how many people will take revenge for you. Moreover, I will even destroy your soul. You won't be able to become a soul even if you want to. This situation was within Ning Shu's expectations. After all, he had a very pure spiritual liquid on him. This was something that cultivators desired. Cultivation was nothing more than breathing in spiritual energy. Spiritual energy was the foundation of cultivation. One could imagine how precious spiritual liquid was. Young Master Chu's face flushed red as Ning Shu grabbed his collar. He was angry and annoyed. He was a famous person in the city. It was really embarrassing to be grabbed by the collar like this. Am I from the Li family? Young Master Chu had no choice but to bring out his background. Ning Shu directly said, I just came here. I don't know anyone from the Li family. Young Master Chu was speechless. He wasn't afraid of arrogance, but he was afraid of ignorance. Because of ignorance, he wouldn't die here today, right? Ning Shu said, actually, I came here today to do business with you. Do you want to do it? Young Master Chu's face twitched. He didn't say anything. Chapter 2156. Was she trying to extort him? Young Master was a little worried. If he knew, he wouldn't have come to find this woman. However, the quality of the spirit liquid in her hands was really good. She was a fat sheep. He didn't expect this fat sheep to be so fierce. No wonder the elders at home let her come out to train. Also, his attacks didn't hurt her at all. Why was her soul different from others? Young Master roared in his heart. Hearing that the other party wanted to trade with him, Young Master's face was wooden and he didn't say anything. Ning Shu said, I have a batch of very pure spirit liquid. Do you want to trade with me? Young Master still didn't say anything. Ning Shu grabbed his collar and shook him, say something if you agree or not. I won't take advantage of you. Let's trade with the original method. If there are good quality spirit stones, I can give you a discount. He still wanted to trade with someone with such a background. He should have good quality spirit stones. Say something, say something. Ning Shu looked at Young Master. Young Master was shaken by Ning Shu until the blood in his body was in turmoil. He almost spat out blood. It seemed that if he didn't trade today, he might lose his life here. This guy looked like a hothead. He didn't know how strong the Li family was. Just ask around in the city and he would know. Young Master was afraid that the other party would shake him again and immediately said, I don't have so many spirit stones on me. Feeling the gazes around him, Young Master felt that he had never been so embarrassed. It was all because of this woman. Go back and get the spirit stones. Young Master said to the servant. The servant immediately wanted to run away. Wait. Ning Shu stopped the servant and said, I only want to see the spirit stones. I don't want to see anything else. Otherwise, you're Young Master. Ning Shu shook Young Master. Young Master's face turned green from being shaken by Ning Shu and he almost spat out blood. However, he was facing this fierce woman. If he spat it on her face, she would probably beat him to death. Young Master gritted his teeth and said to the servant, just take the spirit stones. Don't tell the family. Right now, life was more important. Although a person would still have a soul after death, a soul was no different from an ascetic monk. He didn't need to eat, couldn't taste delicious food, and couldn't have sex with beautiful women. What joy was there in life? Living like a salted fish was simply a disaster. He hoped that the Li family would receive the news soon. He just didn't know if those people at home who didn't like him would deliberately pretend to be deaf and mute. Even in big families, there would be discord. Cultivation was a competition for resources. He had a lot of resources, but if he had more, others would have less. When the servant went to get the spirit stones, Ning Shu chatted with Young Master and asked, do you know where there is a spirit stone mine? The Young Master said dryly, I don't know. Oh. The soul stone mines were not easy to find. The soul stone mines marked on the map could not be mined. Even if people were to bury them, it would be useless. Ning Shu sighed in his heart. It was not easy to get some soul stones. He guessed that 2333 was trying his best to store them in the system space. Seeing that Ning Shu wouldn't do anything to him, Young Master sat on the ground weakly and started to adjust his breathing. He was bleeding internally. If he didn't fix it in time, his foundation would be affected. Ning Shu just glanced at him and didn't stop him from adjusting his breathing. She was here to exchange for spirit stones, not to kill people. Whether Young Master was a good person or a bad person had nothing to do with her. The servant rushed over with a bag in his hand. It should be a space bag. It was so big, so there should be many spirit stones. Ning Shu was really excited. Young Master, I brought all the spirit stones here. The servant whispered into Young Master's ear. Young Master nodded. He only had so many spirit stones. Ning Shu asked, do we exchange? Up to you. Young master squeezed out 2 words. His face was green. Was it his turn to choose now? Ning Shu looked at the many people around and said, let's find an inn and exchange slowly. Do you need me to help you? Ning Shu looked at him sitting on the ground. No need. Young master squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. He was helped up by the servant. When he walked, he felt that his internal organs were in pain. Ning Shu found an inn and took out many bottles to exchange with young master. What surprised Ning Shu was that there were many spirit stones of better quality. Wow, he was really rich. Ning Shu looked at young master like he was looking at a fat sheep. Young master felt a chill run down his spine from Ning Shu's gaze. The two exchanged like before. Ning Shu took the spirit stones. Another pile of spirit stones. It was great. Ning Shu was in a good mood and said to young master, I will find you to exchange next time. This was better than the spirit stones exchanged from stalls. Most importantly, it had a golden soul source. Young master's face was green and he said, this is my last spirit stone. I don't have any more. Ning Shu looked at young master's serious expression and was a little disappointed. Actually, it was a pleasure working with you. Young master, he, Ning Shu asked him, do you know which family has more spirit stones? The resources were all occupied by the strong. One had to find a big family to exchange for spirit stones. You still want to exchange? Young master looked at Ning Shu. If he didn't remember wrongly, she had already exchanged a lot. She had already exchanged a lot from him. He had so many spirit stones because of his family's resources. Also, he was scammed. After all, he was a human and not a soul. He couldn't absorb spirit stones at all. This kind of cooperation was mutually beneficial. However, he couldn't bear to give up his spirit stones. Yes, I still want to exchange for more. The more, the better. I wonder if any of the young masters you know have a good quality and quantity of soul stones. Ning Shu Chao asked. Young master looked at Ning Shu and was furious. He nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. He was forced to make a deal and now he was actually asking him. Did he look easy to bully? Young master rolled his eyes and grinned. Actually, I know someone who has many spirit stones. His family has several spirit stone mines and they all have high-quality spirit stones. Moreover, his family heirloom is a golden spirit stone. The golden spirit stone is as pure as gold. Golden spirit stone. Ning Shu held her breath. Oh my God, such a pure golden spirit stone, she liked it so much. Who is it? Ning Shu knew that this person didn't have good intentions but she was still tempted. She might not be able to exchange for his family heirloom, but it would be good if she could exchange for good quality spirit stones. Lu family. Young master grinned and said. Lu family. Ning Shu made a mental note of this family. She would look for information on the Lu family later. Know thyself and know thy enemy, and 100 battles would be won. Chapter 2157. Can I leave now? The young master straightened his neck and asked Ning Shu. He had no choice, his life was in the hands of others and he had to give in. Ning Shu nodded his head, you can leave. The servant supported young master and was about to leave. Ning Shu said, we have gotten to know each other after fighting. In the future, I will find you if I have anything. Young master at #yen%, and young master's heart was being scolded. The servant supported young master and ran away. What happened to being a country bumpkin? Ning Shu walked out of the inn and started to understand the Lu family. He said that young master was up to no good. This Lu family was because the person who built it was surnamed Lu. Actually, it was a family where souls gathered. Not only were there people surnamed Lu, but there were also other surnames like Zhao, Qian, Sun, and Li. It was like a sect that focused on soul cultivation. Ning Shu felt that this was a little tough. He thought about how he wanted to exchange for spiritual liquid, but the other party was a soul body and couldn't absorb spiritual liquid. What they needed was soul stones. This business definitely wouldn't work because they didn't need it. Ning Shu tossed aside the thought of heading to the Lu family. He pointed his finger and headed out of Nine Palace Mountain. Standing on the black sand, Ning Shu wanted to see how his world of reincarnation had evolved. He heard that only with the reincarnation pool could it be considered a world of reincarnation. This world didn't have one at all. Ning Shu flew in the vast world. This world had no light and it was dark everywhere. The ground was dark and there was no sunlight, no river. It was just darkness with no life at all. No matter what, Ning Shu still hoped that this world would evolve into a reincarnation world. Maybe one day she couldn't think it through and wanted to reincarnate. She could just jump into the reincarnation pool in her own world and reincarnate easily. But she didn't build the reincarnation world to reincarnate, so she stopped that thought. Ning Shu returned to the system space. As expected, the system space was filled with bottles filled with spiritual liquid. Ning Shu, can you rest for a while? 2333, it was as if she had eaten stride and couldn't stop at all. Did she have to be like this? Exchanging for soul stones wasn't something that could be exchanged just because she wanted to. Ning Shu took out the soul stones that he had exchanged for. 2333 said, the quality this time seems to be better than last time. Fortunately, I was lucky. Ning Shu lay on the sofa, took out a black rose and smelled it. He rested one hand on the back of his head and stared at the snow-white ceiling, thinking about what he could use to exchange for the soul stone. The Lu family had a lot of soul stones, but they needed soul stones themselves, so they didn't need the spirit liquid. Therefore, he could only be rejected if he brought the spirit liquid to the door. Ning Shu opened up the exchange store to see if there were any secret manuals for cultivating the soul that he could use to exchange for some soul stones. However, many items in the system shop had been suspended from sale and taken off the shelves. Ning Shu hurriedly went to see if the spirit stones were taken off the shelves. If the spirit stones were taken off the shelves, what else could she buy? She would still have to rely on the spirit liquid to exchange for spirit stones. Seeing that the spirit stones were not taken off the shelves, Ning Shu hurriedly spent more than 100,000 faith power to buy a lot of spirit stones and put them in the system space to slowly feed the spirit fish. It felt like a storm was coming. He hoped that nothing would happen to the organization. Thinking about this, he felt that the 600,000 he had donated was not a big deal. How could an egg remain intact and the nest was overturned? Ning Shu browsed through the exchange store and saw a secret manual for cultivating the soul. To a certain extent, the soul could cultivate the path of ghost and path of immortality. However, the price was really too high. It was much more expensive than before. 4 times the price. Ning Shu felt that he had used up all his family's assets for a few soul stones. Ning Shu did not want to buy it for the time being. He would use the spirit liquid to exchange for soul stones temporarily. When the business was not so good, he would try the secret manual. In the blink of an eye, Ning Shu had spent more than 1,000,000 yuan. He always felt that he could not save money. He had survived being poor in the past. Why did he feel that he did not have enough money? It must be because she spent a lot of money. I have to control it. I can't control how much I send. Ning Shu was still thinking about controlling how much he sent. After thinking about it, he opened the exchange store and bought 2 secret manuals for 4 times the price. Looking at the 2 ancient secret manuals in his hands, Ning Shu slapped his claws and decisively went into the 9 Palace Mountain to set up a stall. He used soul cultivation to exchange for soul stones. The higher the quality of the soul stones, the higher the priority. Jiang Taigong was fishing, and those who were willing to take the bait were bait. Although these souls should have secret soul cultivation manuals, this should be even better. After all, Ning Shu had spent a lot of merit points. He had bought it with merit points. People came and went to look at the 2 secret manuals that Ning Shu had placed on the ground. Many souls came over to check and asked Ning Shu about the exchange conditions. Ning Shu asked for an exorbitant price and scared these people away. Some people even said that Ning Shu was dreaming. Ning Shu didn't care. Anyway, his target wasn't these scattered souls. Moreover, his target was the Lu family. With a soul cultivation secret manual, no matter how amazing it was, he didn't believe that the Lu family wouldn't come over to take a look. When the servant saw that Ning Shu was setting up a stall, he couldn't help but walk over carefully. He saw the 2 manuals and remembered the names before running back to report to the young master. The young master was eating spiritual medicine to slowly heal the injuries in his body. When he heard the servant's words, he couldn't help but grin. Did that woman have a treasure chest? He recommended the Lu family to make her feel bad. The Lu family didn't need the spiritual liquid. No matter how good it was, they didn't need it. In the end, she created a soul cultivation secret manual. Although the Lu family had many soul cultivation secret manuals, they would definitely be attracted to them. The young master rolled his eyes. The servant asked carefully, "Young master, do you want to go and cause trouble?" "Cause some trouble?" Who knows what background he has to be able to take out secret manuals. Secret manuals weren't easily taken out. Secret manuals were the roots of a family. What the young master didn't expect was that Ning Shu had no background. Ning Shu sat by the side of the street and supported his chin with his hand. He was really bored. When the sky was about to turn dark, Ning Shu closed his stall. "Wait." When Ning Shu heard that voice, he placed the secret manual on the ground once more. He looked at the soul that floated over. "Can I take a look at this secret manual?" "You can take a look," Ning Shu said generously. "Don't think that you can remember it just by looking at it once." This 40-years-old man flipped through the 2 books. In the end, he placed them down and shook his head. "It isn't that exquisite." Ning Shu just smiled and didn't say anything. Usually, when one said such words, one wanted to bargain. "I spent tens of thousands of merit secret manuals and you told me that it wasn't exquisite? I can see that your hands are shaking." Since the fish took the bait, Ning Shu wasn't afraid of it running away. Even if it ran away, it didn't mean that only the Lu family had soul bodies. Chapter 2158. Even if the other party complained that his secret manuals were not good or had any shortcomings, Ning Shu was all smiles. If it was really so bad, then just leave. Why waste your breath? Finally, Ning Shu asked the soul, "How do you want to trade?" Ning Shu looked at his secret manuals and did not say that he wanted to trade. He said, "This is a secret manual for cultivating the ghost Tao, and this one is for cultivating the immortal Tao. When you cultivate it to the extreme, you can have a new body." Was it tempted? The soul's expression was indifferent. Perhaps it was past its excitement. It looked very calm now, and there was a look of disdain on its face. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu put away the secret manuals and planned to leave. He muttered, "Since you don't know the value, I'll trade with someone else." The soul was speechless. How could there be such a thing? How could a business not allow customers to be picky and nitpick? "Aren't we talking now? Where are you going?" The soul said helplessly. Ning Shu said, "This is my family's very good secret manual." "How dare you say that about my family's secret manual? I'm not selling it. If the elders in my family know that I sold it cheaply, they will hang me up and beat me. I'm a rookie with a background. Don't lie to me. Even if you lie to me, I still have elders in my family. Your stuff is very good," the soul said. Seeing Ning Shu's expression of disbelief, it repeated, "It's really good." Ning Shu set up his stall again. "Since you said that my stuff is good, how do you want to trade? What price can you give me? What price do you want?" The soul asked, rubbing its thumb and index finger. Ning Shu said, "I want a golden soul stone." The soul's finger paused and said, "Soul stones of this purity are rare. I can give you a very good quality soul stone. Although it's not pure gold, it's still dark gold with a mix of gold." Ning Shu was very excited. He did not want a pure gold soul stone, but a gold soul stone was already very good. Ning Shu's face was filled with dissatisfaction. "My family's elders said that these two books can be used to cultivate one's soul. They are very precious items. I won't trade them for anything other than golden soul stones. That's a pity. I don't have any gold-colored soul stones." The soul shook her head and left. Ning Shu packed up his stall and didn't have any intention of stopping him. Wasn't he trying to use this method to stop him? He wasn't going to fall for it. The soul walked slowly, waiting for the young lady to call out to him. When he turned around, he saw that she had already packed up her stall, put the things on her back, and left. Soul, wasn't this too willful? It was like beating an old master to death with random punches. It felt like he didn't understand the ways of the world and didn't follow the rules at all. "Why didn't you stop me?" Her soul had no choice but to follow behind Ning Shu. She watched her enter an inn before returning to her own home. Ning Shu felt the person behind him and laughed. "If you don't care, then don't follow me." Ning Shu paid some spirit stones and stayed in the inn. Then, he waited for the fish to take the bait. Ning Shu didn't manage to do business on the street this time. The other party would probably invite him to the Lu family next and use the Lu family's reputation to scare him. In their territory, bargaining would be much smoother this way. Ning Shu knew how to do this. Asking the other party to take out a gold-colored soul stone was obviously a huge price to pay. That soul actually didn't dare to make the decision immediately. Ning Shu covered her head with the quilt, giggling like a nightingale under the quilt. He couldn't help but let out a barbell-like laugh. The next day, Ning Shu went out to set up her stall as usual. There were people who wanted to trade, but the moment the price was announced, their faces darkened. There were even people who wanted to rob him. Ning Shu beat them up until they covered their heads and fled. She believed that the Lu family was watching her not far away. They must be weighing her strength. If she was too weak, the Lu family wouldn't mind forcing her to trade. It was just that the price might make people vomit blood. Therefore, when people came to make trouble, Ning Shu dealt with them with thunderous means. "I bought it at 4 times the price. What are you trying to do with the price of a beggar? It wouldn't be too much to beat you to death." Ning Shu took out these secret manuals to attract more wealthy souls. When the time came, there would be more competition. The price of her things would definitely rise. Ning Shu just imagined it and saliva flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He couldn't help but let out a lewd laugh. After seeing Ning Shu's strength, some people didn't dare to make trouble. There were also some families who were very sincere in wanting to trade. Although they weren't soul families, they wouldn't complain about having too many secret manuals. No one could guarantee that there wasn't a soul cultivator in their family. Cultivation skills went against the heavens. They would encounter all kinds of dangers and might even die. One of the secret manuals could let people regain their physical body. Although it had to be cultivated to the extreme, it was still a goal to strive for. Moreover, the price was very fair. Ning Shu said that he only wanted gold-colored soul stones. He wanted high-quality soul stones. As for things like spirit stones, she didn't need them. She didn't believe that the Lu family people would be able to take it. During this time, the young master who was beaten up by Ning Shu walked over. When he saw the 2 tattered secret manuals, his face was filled with disdain. Ning Shu saw young master and smiled, your injuries are healed. That's great. I have something to do. Help me take care of the stall. Young master, scram, she asked him to take care of the stall, but he came over to laugh at her. Young master felt that he couldn't beat this person, but there would definitely be strong people who would teach this brat a lesson. Young master looked straight ahead and walked past Ning Shu like he didn't see Ning Shu at all. Ning Shu was too lazy to care about him. As long as he offended her, it was fine. A strong dragon couldn't suppress a snake in its own territory. Who knew whether or not there were strong cultivators in this city? But even if there were, Ning Shu could leave at any time. But he didn't want to cause trouble. After the deal was done, he would go to the Soul Stone mine to take a look. The fish tank was still there. The soul who was hiding her body floated in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled, Uncle, you're here. The head of the family invites you to the Lu family. The soul said. Ning Shu said straightforwardly, are you guys going to trick me into going to your family? And then, the soul's face darkened, the head of the family is interested in your secret manuals, so he invited you to the Lu family. Also, if you really want to make a deal, you can just use the soul stones. If it was inconvenient, he could just put it in his spatial ring. No matter how many things there were, it could fit. Ning Shu heaved a sigh of relief. He patted his chest and said, I thought you guys were going to rob me. Soul, she was a brat after all. The soul explained, the Lu family isn't like that. Don't worry, you'll definitely leave the Lu family well. Chapter 2159. Ning Shu replied in his heart, but he could not guarantee that the book was still there. The soul took Ning Shu to the Lu family. When they arrived at the Lu family's house, Ning Shu almost thought that he had come to a haunted house. It was all kinds of gloomy, and there was black gas floating in the air. Souls were of the Yin attribute. With so many souls gathered together, it was really very gloomy. The soul uncle took Ning Shu into the Lu family. All kinds of souls floated by, and some of the stronger souls walked like humans. Some of the souls were very light, and the souls that did not cultivate could only float. It was really a haunted house. And it was not bright at all. Especially after entering the house, Ning Shu saw a soul with a big beard sitting in the seat of honor. His face gave people a kind of candid and trustworthy look. But cultivators, even if they looked rough, their hearts were as thin as needles, and they were not lacking in any of them. In addition to the big beard, there were a few other souls sitting next to him. Each of them had a solid body, and it seemed that they were not weak. See, the Lu family cared about the secret book. With so many people waiting, of course, they could not rule out the possibility of psychological pressure. The big beard smiled at Ning Shu and said, Little girl, take out your secret book and let me see. This strong and stocky man spoke in such a tone, so wretched, like a strange uncle who wanted to kidnap a little girl. Ning Shu twitched the corner of his mouth, took out 2 secret books, and said, Be careful, if you break them, I will ask you to compensate. The big beard flipped through the secret book and whispered to the other souls, as if they were talking about something. They were probably deliberately blocking Ning Shu. Ning Shu only saw their mouths moving, but he did not know what they were talking about. Ning Shu did not care at all what they were saying. In the end, the group gathered together and discussed for a long time. Then the big beard asked Ning Shu, I heard that you were sent out by the elders of your family to gain experience. But I don't know if you can make the decision on this secret book. If you sell it to the Lu family and the elders of your family come to find you, it will be troublesome. Ning Shu said, The elders in my family gave me some spiritual liquid and some scripts, saying that I have full authority to deal with these things. The bearded man stared at Ning Shu. Ning Shu clasped his hands behind his back and looked at the bearded man. The bearded man looked away and asked, What price do you want? I want soul stones, golden soul stones. He had heard that the Lu family had several soul stone mines, so there must be some golden soul stones. That's easy, Big Beard said immediately. Ning Shu was a little suspicious. Why did he agree so directly? He immediately said, I want those very pure soul stones that are as pure as gold. Don't try to change the concept with her. A soul stone with a bit of gold inside was also called a golden soul stone. This. The bearded man immediately hesitated. Not only did he hesitate, but the elders next to him also hesitated. Golden soul stones were very rare and precious. Then how many golden soul stones do you want? Big Beard asked. Damn, there were even a few. That meant there was more than one golden soul stone. Ning Shu tried his best to control his expression and asked, what do you think of this manual? It's a so-so, everyone said in unison. Ning Shu was speechless. I'm not exchanging anymore. Ning Shu felt wronged and wanted to take back his manual. Okay, how many do you want? Big Beard held the manual tightly. This thing is very precious. Forget it, I'm not selling it. Although the elders said to let me make the decision, what if they beat me to death if I sell it cheaply? Ning Shu said while shaking his head. How many do you want? 10, plus 100 golden soul stones. How about that? Big Beard seemed to be a little irritable and impatient. It seemed that if he said another word of objection, he would explode and tear him to pieces. Ning Shu was not afraid at all. He was an old monster. Did he not have any self-restraint and was just trying to scare him? Ning Shu stretched out her index finger and shook it. Are you trying to bully a junior like me? 200 pure golden soul stones, 5,000 golden soul stones, and 20,000 high-grade soul stones. That's my deal. This manual had cost him too much merit points. The two manuals added up to more than 200,000 merit points. Inflation was too scary. Recently, Ning Shu had been spending a lot of money. He felt like he had made a huge mistake. When Ning Shu said his conditions, the room was dead silent. Finally, Big Beard said, with your conditions, no one in this city dares to exchange with you. If that's the case, then I'll go to another city, Ning Shu said indifferently. The price is negotiable, Big Beard said. Ning Shu shook his head. Can't be less. This manual is really good stuff. If you are not willing to exchange for it, then forget it. Besides, there is no bottleneck for this secret manual. There is no need to find a higher-level secret manual. The cultivation process for each stage is different, Ning Shu said. Then, the people in the room gathered together to discuss. Ning Shu did not think of taking advantage of anyone. Everyone came and went, which was great. Moreover, Ning Shu felt that his price was not high. After all, it was 200,000 merit points. Thinking back to when she saved a plane and that plane finally developed in the Sea of Law, she only received 20,000 merit points. It was clear how hard it was to earn merit points. Ning Shu sat at the side and waited for the result of their discussion. Finally, everyone dispersed and sat in their seats seriously. Big Beard coughed. Then we'll do as you say. But we have to make a contract. Say that you took the initiative to sell it to us. You can't find trouble with us after this. Of course. Ning Shu smiled faintly. Her heart was bubbling with excitement. The process of the transaction was very smooth, and the servants carried baskets of soul stones up. Ning Shu's eyes fell on the golden soul stones. That shining golden light was gold. Such a pure soul stone. Ning Shu counted the golden soul stones. There were 200 of them. Not one more, not one less. These soul stones were irregular in shape. There were slight differences in size, but the difference was not big. They were very hard. Ning Shu had the urge to put them in his mouth and bite them. The second-grade soul stones were mixed with golden soul stones. They were not as pure, but they were much better than the ones Ning Shu exchanged with the young masters. Only the golden soul stones were not as shiny. But there was a certain proportion of soul origin inside. He liked it very much. Next was 20,000 high-grade soul stones. These soul stones were mostly filled with soul power. The soul stones had less impurities. Ning Shu kept all the soul stones. Finally, he smiled and said, "Everyone, let's have a good cooperation. Next time, if this little girl has any good things, I will think of the Lu family first." Big Beard reflexively shook his head. Even if he exchanged 2 manuals, the Lu family had already spent a lot of money. It was still the soul uncle who sent Ning Shu to the door. Ning Shu smiled and said, "Will your Lu family spread the news that I have a huge sum of money on me?" Soul. Chapter 2160. You're thinking too much. Soul's mouth twitched as he denied. Ning Shu tilted her head and said, "Actually, it doesn't matter if you spread the news. I'll also say that the Lu family has a secret manual that can allow a soul to regain a body. Come on, let's hurt each other." She had a soul stone, which attracted soul cultivators. The Lu clan had such a secret manual, which attracted soul cultivators as well. So, why did the elders in the family let this girl out? Couldn't she just stay at home? Soul said, "Don't worry, the Lu family is a family of integrity. We will definitely not spread the news that you have something good on you. I can guarantee that, but please don't spread any bad news about the Lu family." "Very well, it's a deal then." Ning Shu didn't want to be followed by a lot of people trying to rob her the moment she appeared in the 9 Palace Mountain. It wasn't that she couldn't beat them, she just found it annoying. "Alright, take care. Get lost." Ning Shu waved her hand. "Then I'll be going." Soul also waved her hand. "Get lost." Ning Shu went to a secluded place, walked into the black hole and left the 9 Palace Mountain. Ning Shu finally couldn't help but laugh with her hands on her hips. Regardless of whether it was worth it or not, 200 pure soul stones were enough to wake Ning Shu up from her dreams. It was too pure. Ning Shu returned to the system space. Other than the 200 pure soul stones, he had 2,333 send the rest to the main system for purification. 2333 said in surprise. "The quality of this batch is better than last time." Some of the soul stones were dark gold in color, but Ning Shu kept the bright yellow soul stones. "These soul stones are of better quality. Why are you keeping them?" "This soul stone contains the source of the soul, I don't want to take it to the main system to purify it." Ning Shu kept the 200 soul stones. To be honest, Ning Shu didn't know how much soul energy the main system gave her. The contract said that she would get 40%, but Ning Shu didn't know the exact amount. Therefore, Ning Shu did not plan to purify the soul stone with such purity. He would keep it for himself in the future. When she became stronger, perhaps she would be able to do it herself. If he kept it, he could use it as a foundation, especially now that the organization was in a mess. If he were to borrow his soul origin, he wouldn't even be able to cry. Even if there was some compensation, was it as precious as the soul origin? 2333 said, "Since he has signed the contract, he will not go back on his word." "You are being too careful." "We can't not be careful. It's better to be safe than sorry," Ning Shu said. He was happy to see these stones placed in the system space. 2333 was a little unhappy. "What's the point of putting them here? You might as well use them to strengthen yourself. Who knows when you'll be able to purify these soul stones? Maybe you'll be dead by then." No matter what 2333 said, Ning Shu had no intention of letting the main system purify such a pure soul. 2333 had no choice but to send the rest of the soul stones to the main system for purification. Ning Shu was a little tired as he lay on the sofa. 2333 saw that the quality of the soul stones she brought back was getting better and better. It was so tiring. Ding dong. The chatting system rang. Ning Shu casually opened the chatting system. It was a message from the main system. It was not about the soul stones, but an announcement. System announcement, sigh. Ning Shu sighed. There was no way he could live like this. For example, when she completed a mission, she would receive an extra 10% of the soul energy. Originally, she should have received an extra 70% of the soul energy. However, after taking away 10% of the soul energy, she would only receive 60%. That meant that she would lose 10% of the soul energy. Fortunately, all the quest takers were like this. Therefore, even though 10% of the soul energy was not much, it was still not bad. Ning Shu did not know if the main system would take a portion of the soul energy from their cooperation. Ning Shu immediately sent a message to the main system. Cooperation is cooperation. You can't lose out on the soul stones. The main system replied with a single word and disappeared from the list. Anyway, the current situation was not good. In fact, it was not suitable for a mission. After all, if he completed the mission, he would lose 10% of his soul energy. However, Ning Shu still decided to do the mission. He had already donated 600,000 soul energy. He did not care about the 10% of soul energy. With the soul stones, Ning Shu did not care that much about the 10% of soul energy. After all, some of the quest takers did not donate much soul energy. Ning Shu added some agarwood to the incense burner. Then, he lay on the sofa and slept. When he woke up, he would do the mission. It was a small contribution. No matter how bad the organization was, Ning Shu now needed to rely on it. He also hoped that the organization would be good. The agarwood emitted smoke again and again. It calmed down his restless mood. The restlessness in his heart quickly disappeared. Ning Shu did not know how long he slept. When he woke up, he felt a lot better. In fact, it was okay for a soul to not sleep and not rest. He would not feel tired. However, it was just a psychological effect. He felt that he would feel more relaxed after resting. Ning Shu stretched and said to 2333, I'm going to do the mission. Don't secretly send my gold to the main system to be purified. Actually, it's good that it's purified. It's useless for you to put it here. If it's purified, it can strengthen your own strength. Also, as a decoration, the color of these things looks very tacky, 2333 said. I like this color. Ning Shu said, the organization's funds are so tight now. First, they force me to donate. Then, they take more soul energy. 2333, I already said that such a big organization wouldn't be greedy for such a small thing. Even if they wanted more, they could have just done it quietly. Why did they have to announce it to every quest taker? Are you paranoid? Ning Shu, no, I'm paranoid about you. 2333, why? Ning Shu, nothing. It's just that sometimes, we don't seem to be transparent about the data. Like this time, the soul energy purified by the soul stone. We agreed on 10%, but I don't know how much you absorbed. 2333. You think too lowly of me. I'm not poor to the point that I have to be a thief. Ning Shu immediately said, I know that you are a noble person. You won't be interested in my small profits. 2333. I'm not interested in it. Ning Shu clicked on the system exchange store and exchanged for some fasting pills and some medicine, anti-inflammatory medicine and fever medicine. She did not want to die without medicine in the extreme environment of the mission. After spending 4 times the price to buy the fasting pills and medicine, Ning Shu felt that it was not worth it to do the mission. Chapter 2161. Moreover, it would take away 10% of her soul power. However, Ning Shu still went to do the mission. If she was forced to donate again, she could avoid it. If it happened again, Ning Shu felt that she might have to buy a kidney. Fortunately, all the mission enforcers were like this. She was not the only one. If everyone was unlucky, she would not feel so unlucky. She still had to find the origin of the world. She did not know how long it would take for Xiaohua to hatch it. If it did not hatch, would she have to wait forever and not build the world? If that was the case, she might as well find it herself and buy it through other channels. How long would she have to wait? Ning Shu said to 2333, if someone is looking for me, just tell them that I am doing a mission. I am not here, 2333 said, oh. Then go do the mission. Ning Shu said. If it was too chaotic, it was better to do the mission. She did not have to feel this oppressive atmosphere. She did what she needed to do. She did not have the ability to worry about other things even if she wanted to. There was a tall tree supporting it. If something happened to the tree, the first to feel it was the fox or the ant that lived on the tree. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Even if it was to exchange for soul stones, it was not that easy. Ning Shu wanted to exchange for some better quality soul stones. She forgot to go to the soul stone mine. However, the fish tank was very safe. Whoever touched it would be unlucky. Do the system mission. 2333 asked as usual. Ning Shu thought about it. It seemed that she had not done the system mission for a long time. Should she do it? Ning Shu did not like this kind of system mission. The other party had max cheats. It was not easy to deal with. When Ning Shu was still hesitating, she heard the chat system ring. Ning Shu was slightly surprised. Now, the last thing she wanted to hear was the voice of the chat system. She felt that it was either forcing her to donate or deducting her soul power. The organization was not stable. It was difficult for their mood to be stable. Ning Shu opened the chat system. It was the Chongsam man who sent her a message, asking how much she donated. Ning Shu was more curious about how much the Chongsam man donated. She asked, how much did you donate? The Chongsam man replied, almost 1 million. Ning Shu's first reaction was to gloat. His second reaction was, fuck, this guy is so rich. 1% of his wealth is 1 million. This guy has a lot of assets. Ning Shu thought that 2 donations were already a lot, but in the end, 2 donations were not even as much as 1 donation from someone else. However, the Chongsam man was running a restaurant in his own time city, so it was normal for him to be rich. Chongsam man, do you know that the organization collects 10% of your soul power? Ning Shu immediately smelled the scent of gossip and quickly asked, I don't know. Do you know why? Ning Shu felt that his identity was more or less the same as an ordinary citizen of a country. It was impossible for an ordinary citizen to know all the policies of the country. People who were not on the same level as him would naturally not know. Of course, those who did not mix into that circle would not know. The silver-haired man said, didn't the organization have an army? They gave it all to the army. As soon as the army was mentioned, Ning Shu felt that a war was about to break out. He just didn't know who the enemy of the organization was. He didn't know how often such donations were made. As someone who relied on the organization for a living, of course, he hoped that the organization would be fine. Ning Shu had seen the army in that plane. As long as he thought of that scene, Ning Shu felt a little uncomfortable in his stomach. The fragrant wind man was dressed in a military uniform, which meant that he was a member of the army. He should be someone with some status in the army. Ning Shu felt that he was still wandering around the periphery of the organization and couldn't enter. Perhaps when he built the world of living beings, he should be able to enter another level. Only by forging iron and making oneself strong could one be respected and gain the respect of others. Identity was slowly gained through hard work. Ning Shu clicked on the chat group. Many people in it were wailing about how much they had donated. However, from the amount of donations, one could calculate how much wealth these people had. The city lord collected taxes quickly, but when it came to donations, the more assets he had, the more he would donate. At this time, should he be glad that he didn't have much money? Ning Shu chatted with the Cheongsam man for a while. The Cheongsam man probably wanted to talk flirtatiously and show off how much money he had. Then, he asked Ning Shu if he wanted to be his girlfriend. Ning Shu felt that the Cheongsam man would probably talk flirtatiously like this when he met a girl who was pleasing to the eye. In fact, he didn't even have a girlfriend. He only dared to say this. A giant of words and a dwarf of action. This kind of person was good at blabbering. Maybe he would blush in front of the chat group. If he felt ashamed, then he shouldn't talk nonsense. Ning Shu had seen through the Cheongsam man. If she agreed, she would definitely scare him to death. Ning Shu closed the chat group, let out a long breath, and said to 2333, "Let's do the quest." Not only for the quest reward, but also to find the world's origin. Do the system quest. He felt that this conversation was very familiar. Had they already had this conversation before? Then let's do the quest system. Ning Shu said. Okay. 2333 said. Ning Shu nodded. She felt her body fuse into a body. Maybe it was because her soul had turned into water. Ning Shu quickly fused into her body. She didn't feel any discomfort. If she knew that turning her soul into water would have such an effect, she would have done it sooner. Then, she wouldn't be violently thrown up by 2333 every time she fused into her body. Then, Ning Shu felt a pair of hands touching her body. Her breasts were pulled very long. Ning Shu looked down and found that her breasts were flat. The red fruit was pulled very long. Looking at the long joints of the hand, it should be a man's hand. She was a man. And the person pulling her breasts was a man. Holy shit. Ah. The man bit Ning Shu's ear from behind. He kept biting it with his teeth, which made Ning Shu's hair stand up. Oh my god. Ning Shu quickly turned around and saw a man who was also naked. He was muscular and stood upright. His facial features were masculine, and he was bursting with hormones. The man saw Ning Shu's horrified face and was a little surprised. He reached out to grab Ning Shu's ankle. Ning Shu quickly got down from the short and narrow iron bed. She picked up the clothes on the ground and put them on. The man frowned and looked a little unhappy. He got down from the iron bed without wearing anything. He walked over with his head held high. Ning Shu felt like her eyes were going blind. She quickly put on her clothes. Moreover, her lower body was very swollen. What was going on? Why did she enter the quest at this time? She became a man, and she was being defiled by a man. Damn, no matter if it was a man or a woman, there were always men who wanted to defile her. The man walked over and hugged Ning Shu. He pressed his finger on Ning Shu's erect place. Ning Shu, / Chapter 2162. Ning Shu did not expect to see such a scene. Both of them looked the same. Were they going to fight with bayonets next? Ning Shu pushed the man in front of her away. The man took a step back and steadied himself. He thought it was just for fun and leaned over again. Ning Shu was putting on her clothes when the man leaned over again. There was an indescribable smell in the small room. Move, I'm not coming, Ning Shu said directly. Don't force me to use force. I'm in a bad mood now. I was almost pinned down. And if I was always pinned down, I might have an anal fistula. My rectum muscles would be weak, and my poop would leak out before I could flush the toilet. Generally speaking, if you really wanted to have sex, it would take some time to expand. Ning Shu's divergent thoughts had once again scattered to an unknown place. The man's hand grabbed Ning Shu's wrist like an iron arm, preventing Ning Shu from putting on her clothes. It's already like this. You're going back on your words. Didn't you agree? Damn, do you really want to fight with bayonets? Ning Shu glanced at the man's arrogance. She felt that she might not be able to win in a bayonet fight. She wanted to shake off the man's hand, but she was caught and could not move. Damn, this body is weak. The man turned his hand and turned Ning Shu's hand behind her back, making her unable to move. Ning Shu frowned. The opponent was a man who knew grappling and fighting techniques. Don't use that to poke my butt. Ning Shu smiled and said, let go of my hand. It's going to break. It won't break. I know it. The man's lips moved to Ning Shu's ear and said in a hoarse voice. He was going to bite Ning Shu's ear again. Ning Shu tilted her head and took a step back. She leaned close to the man's body and bent her body, wanting to throw him over her shoulder. However, the man behind her stood firm and let out a low chuckle. All right, stop fooling around. Then, he pulled Ning Shu onto the small metal bed. Holy shit, Ning Shu was so scared that he shriveled up. Fuck, she had fallen into the hands of a man today, and her anus might be damaged. How painful would it be when she pooped? Ning Shu slashed the man's neck with his backhand. Normally, an ordinary person would have fainted from the heavy blow. However, the man frowned and looked at Ning Shu. What's wrong with you? What the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you dizzy? I don't want to fucking do it. Let me put on my clothes, Ning Shu said coldly as he kicked the man's crotch. Let's see if you dodge when I kick your crotch. The man clamped Ning Shu's feet with his legs. The muscles on his legs were as hard as iron rods. Fuck, Ning Shu planned to have close contact with the other party's head, directly using his head to hit the other party's nose. He didn't believe that the other party's nose was also fully equipped. You really don't want to do it? The man looked at Ning Shu's face and let go of his wrist. If you really don't want to do it, then forget it. Ning Shu was just about to muster up the courage to hurt himself when the other party said that. It was like a punctured balloon. Who cares, now he just wanted to put on his pants. She didn't know what the client did, but his body was like a cut chicken, and he looked really gay. Ning Shu picked up the messy clothes on the floor, not knowing which one was his. The man laid on the bed with his arm resting on his arm. He wasn't wearing anything. He raised his head and looked at Ning Shu with narrowed eyes. I like the way you bend over, the man said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu resisted the urge to cover his butt. He picked up the clothes on the floor and put them on. That's my clothes. You can't wear them. Do you want to wear my clothes so much? The man laid on the bed very calmly, showing off his ability without wearing anything. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with him. He put on his shirt. There was a white coat on the floor. Looking at the white coat, it should be hers. Ning Shu put on the white coat. The person in the white coat was either a doctor or a scientist. Ning Shu didn't even look at the man lying on the bed to prevent his eyes from hurting. If you've thought it through, you can come to me anytime. I'll accompany you anytime. The man supported his face with his hand and said in a low voice. Ning Shu, I'll wait. Ning Shu left the room and felt that the air was a little turbid. There was dust floating in the air, and there were soldiers patrolling outside. Many people saw Ning Shu coming out of the room and had a strange and ambiguous expression on their faces. Hello, Dr. G. Ning Shu nodded coldly. After walking for a long time, she felt a lot of hot eyes staring at her butt. There were always bad people thinking about her butt. Fuck, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. Ning Shu felt that he should accept the plot now. That man was obviously from the military, and his body was very sensitive. This time, Ning Shu arrived at the end of the world. He was now in a base. The person who commissioned him was called Ji Ziyang. He was a researcher involved in solving the virus in the zombie body. He was also researching drugs that could destroy zombies. It had been a while since the outbreak of the apocalypse. The world fell into darkness. Zombies roamed freely, and even some animals and plants began to mutate. They became very aggressive and abnormally strong. At this time, human survival became difficult. There were endless zombies, and there were people who became zombies because of their allies. Maybe the environment was too polluted, or maybe it was the huge meteorite that fell from the sky. In short, humans began to suffer the consequences of their own actions. Even if they died, they would become zombies with no thoughts and only appetite. They had no fear and were so simple that they only wanted to eat meat. As for the person who wanted to fight with Ning Shu, he was from the base's army. His name was Hu Jingqing, and he commanded 1/3 of the base's army. He killed zombies and stole food. In short, he was a very strong man. However, his sexual orientation was a little strange. He liked Ji Ziyang, who was in the research lab. They were about to develop into a couple, and when they were about to have sex, Ning Shu came. Ning Shu was speechless. This was the client's boyfriend or girlfriend. Who cared if he was a friend? This should be the plot of the apocalypse. Dr. Ji Ziyang had a good life as a commander. It sounded pretty good. However, Hu Jingqing had a good life. Ning Shu felt that he was the main character. If the client, Ji Ziyang, was the main character, he probably wouldn't counterattack and fight with Hu Jingqing every day. Moreover, this mission was a system mission. 2333, you can send any mission wrong, but you can't send a system mission wrong. Later, a man called Ping and Shun came to the base. Although this man looked a little ordinary, he had a strange superpower. He could make zombies work for him. In short, he could make zombies listen to him. He could make zombies attack whoever he wanted. He could also put zombies away. He probably had a space where zombies could be stored. In fact, this was a good thing. He could use zombies to kill zombies. He could make as many zombies as he wanted. This way, the survival of humans would be better. Chapter 2163. After all, humans would always be at a disadvantage when fighting zombies that only had appetite and no fear. In this post-apocalyptic world, no one had activated their superpowers. It was just an ordinary post-apocalyptic world where everyone fought for survival with their weapons. However, with the advent of the apocalypse, many factories had closed down and no one was producing anymore. Resources were scarce and there were more and more zombies. Ping and Shun's superpower was almost enough to save the world. The client, Ji Ziyang, was very interested in why zombies could listen to Ping and Shun. After all, zombies only had appetite and controlling zombies was not easy at all. However, Ping and Shun was able to control them. Ji Ziyang wanted to study the zombies that Ping and Shun controlled and find out what was the reason for the zombies to be controlled. However, Ping and Shun did not agree. Ji Ziyang pestered Ping and Shun, but Ping and Shun did not agree. This made Ji Ziyang's heart itch. If he could find out the reason, it would be a big breakthrough. Ping and Shun had a space, and all the zombies that stayed in this space would listen to him. As for the specific reason, Ping and Shun didn't know. For the purpose of protecting himself, Ping and Shun didn't take out zombies for people to study. The client was very disappointed and regretful, but he did not force Ping and Shun. After all, Ping and Shun was the hero of the base and he was just a researcher. There was a big difference in their status. Also, the research on how to deal with zombies was progressing very slowly. However, Ji Ziyang's boyfriend or girlfriend, Hu Jingqing, got closer and closer to Ping and Shun and finally got together. Ji Ziyang was speechless. Although he felt uncomfortable, this was the post-apocalyptic world. The law was broken, morality was lost, and there were no restrictions. In addition to facing death at any time, many people just lived one day at a time. There was no need to be hesitant and do whatever they wanted. People's desires were direct and undisguised. It was impossible to ask someone to be loyal to you. Ji Ziang could not rush up to Hua Jingqing and shout, "You betrayed me." Although they were lovers, they could be considered as affixed. However, there were always accidents. One day, the data of the research lab disappeared and the first suspect was the client. The client did not touch the data. Moreover, it was useless for him to take the data. The data could not solve the problem of zombies. However, Ji Ziang was caught by the soldiers and thrown out of the base. Ji Ziang was a typical weakling. After being thrown out of the base, he would be torn apart by the zombies. He was very lucky to be able to become a zombie. After all, under the siege of so many zombies, it was very difficult to ensure that one's body was intact. Basically, the zombies had torn their intestines and stomachs apart. This was Ping Shun's method. No one wanted to see someone following behind them and studying this and that. Ping Shun did this to protect himself. The apocalypse was a place where there was no kindness. Everything he did was for his own survival. If Hua Jingqing had to choose between Ping An and Ji Ziang, it would be an easy choice. However, there was no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Although Ping Shun could control zombies, especially the zombies in his space were his army. With such an army, Ping Shun was almost invincible. However, in the end, the zombies did not listen to Ping Shun's commands. Sometimes they would attack other zombies, but most of the time, they would attack humans. Moreover, the zombies released from the space were more powerful than normal zombies. At least their skin had hardened, unlike the rotting bodies of normal zombies. Facing this situation, Ping Shun panicked. If these zombies did not listen to him, then what was he going to do? In order to explain his actions, Ping Shun said that he was a Taoist's disciple before the apocalypse. Of course, he had to use some spells to control zombies. Of course, he had to use them with his cultivation. Ordinary people could not achieve this effect. Now that he could not control the zombies, he would be pulled down from the altar of being a hero. Hua Jingqing would be disappointed. Facing this situation, Ping Shun did not know if he could negotiate with the space. He directly said that if he could no longer control the zombies, he would kill himself and destroy the space. It seemed that the space had its own consciousness. Later, Ping Shun could control more powerful zombies. Wherever he went, he was invincible. Without leaving the base, he would be entangled with Hua Jingqing. In the end, the two of them worked together and became like gods in the apocalypse. They built the largest and most prosperous base. Ning Shu asked 2333, "Is there a problem with the space?" Yes, when the space host cannot control these powerful zombies, these zombies can kill everyone in the world. What do you think the world will become? I don't know. The species will be unbalanced, the ecology will be broken, and the order will be chaotic. The heavenly Tao will collapse, and then the world will be finished. 2333 explained. Ning Shu thought and asked again, "Is it possible that the space is not after luck, but it wants to become the heavenly Tao of this world? It is originally a space, so it wants to form a world. The space could form a world, just like her peerless martial arts, just like her reincarnation world. When the heavenly Tao of this world was chaotic, could it replace it? What's the use of a broken, dirty world? It probably wants to take over the heavenly Tao of this world and form its own world." 2333's tone was full of disdain for the apocalypse. Humans deserve it for turning the place they rely on for survival into this. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. "You are talking as if you are not human. Fine, you are the Demon King. Even so, why is it a weakling?" Ning Shu asked. How could she deal with Shun, who had thousands of soldiers and horses, and who had zombies that did not know fatigue. Because in this world, he is the one who paid the price of his soul to counterattack. No one else can counterattack. 2333 said matter-of-factly. Ning Shu took a deep breath and touched his buttocks. Fortunately, he was not stabbed. In the end, he was kicked away. Ning Shu returned to his small room. In the base, it was not easy to have his own room. He wanted to take a bath, but water was too precious. Drinking water was not enough, so he could not take a bath. Ning Shu pointed his finger and tried to use the power of law. Some worlds had great restrictions on power, and did not allow the existence of power beyond the system. Ning Shu's finger formed droplets of water. Ning Shu opened his mouth and the water droplets dripped into Ning Shu's mouth. What a pity. Although it could be used, it could not cause a flood. Ning Shu did not plan to use the power of law in front of others. After all, the person who commissioned it was a science geek, a weakling. Chapter 2164. What if after she left, the client was forced to produce clear water? The client could only be caught in the dark and might even be killed in the end. Angry humans were capable of anything. They would be furious if they couldn't give, especially in the apocalyptic world where there were no laws. The air in this world was comparable to the trash planet Ning Shu had been on before. Moreover, the rain was acid rain. Although it wouldn't corrode the buildings, it definitely couldn't be drunk. Of course, when there was a shortage of water, they would collect the rain and mix it with some clean water so that it could be drunk. Some alkaline chemicals would also be used to neutralize the acidity, but it was always harmful to the body because there were too many impurities. Therefore, even if Ning Shu wanted to use the law of water, he would do it secretly so that no one would find out. It was not easy to drink clear water. Moreover, he was covered in sweat. He didn't believe that Hu Jingqing would be able to drink it. The client's wish was to live and find a way to eliminate zombies. Ning Shu was speechless. The way to eliminate zombies was to blow up their heads. There was obviously a highly infectious virus in the zombies' bodies. This virus caused humans to lose their emotions and become monsters with only appetite. Therefore, this mission really put a lot of pressure on Ning Shu. Not only did he have to deal with the space that could carry thousands of troops, but he also had to study how to overcome the zombie virus. There was also Hu Jingqing, who was eyeing her but covetously. Before Ping and Shun came, Hu Jingqing only trusted the client. However, after Ping and Shun came, the situation was hard to say. Damn! What a headache! Ning Shu shook the bedsheets and shook off some dust. Then, Ning Shu sat cross-legged on the bed and prepared to start cultivating the spiritual energy in this world. There was no spiritual energy at all. Then, he could only absorb other energy, the power of the sun. Humans were also very powerful when a plane was so ruined. The ones who caused the most damage to the plane were humans. Not only to the plane, but also to the creatures that lived in the plane. There were too many endangered animals. However, due to the sudden change in the weather and the spread of the virus, some creatures quickly went extinct. Those that barely survived would change and become even more ferocious existences. Ning Shu had absorbed the fiery sun's power, but the fiery sun's power was quite weak. If a world did not have enough fiery sun's power, it would affect living creatures. It was just like how a person's body did not have enough yang qi, resulting in all sorts of problems. Was this plane going to be finished? It was bent. Although the fiery sun force was not very sufficient, it was still there. It was not like the spirit qi, which was not at all. The fiery sun force could be slowly absorbed. Ning Shu felt that the reason why special abilities were not awakened in this apocalyptic world was because the heavenly axiom did not wish to torment the plane anymore. If humans evolved, zombies would also evolve, and the two sides would be even more powerful. Taking advantage of the fact that Ping and Shun had yet to reach the base, Ning Shu had to quickly strengthen himself. Otherwise, if he was forced out of the base, only death awaited him. As for Hu Jingqing, he could not count on him at all. In order to protect Ping and Shun, Hu Jingqing abandoned the person who entrusted him. The person who entrusted him did not feel much. Although he was a little angry, it was normal for people in the apocalypse to be lax and lose their morals. However, what made Ning Shu's balls hurt was that this guy had turned the tide and still wanted to save the world. If this virus was so easy to control, there would not be so many zombies. At least humans had weapons. One shot could explode a zombie's head. Only then would humans have the power to fight against zombies. He knelt down to Ji Xiang, who had the world in his heart. He would never call Ji Xiang gay again. Ning Shu absorbed the fiery sun's power in the air. It was very weak. After cultivating for a while, Ning Shu's energy center only had a little bit of fiery sun's power. It made her body feel a little hot, but there was no sea of fire in her energy center. If it was in another world, absorbing the fiery sun's power would cause a magma-like sea of fire to form in her energy center. However, right now, the situation in her energy center was almost like a match. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door. Ning Shu got up from the bed and opened the door. She saw a soldier delivering food to her. The soldier stared at Ning Shu's face with a trace of lust in his eyes. Ning Shu took her food and asked, "Why is there no more canned food?" There was only half a bag of compressed biscuits and half a bowl of water. Normally, researchers would have a bowl of rice. The better ones would have canned food. The canned food could be beef or pork. Now, the food was so bad. The soldier said, "Captain Hua said that you don't have any more canned food. If you want to eat canned food, go to him." Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu closed the door and locked it. A man was looking at her with a lustful gaze. If it was a woman, it would be fine. However, she was a man. Ning Shu put away the biscuits and put the bowl of water on the stool. She didn't drink it. Hu Jingqing was obviously using his position to avenge his personal grudge. They didn't have sex before. Now, he was asking her to go to him. She was like a lamb in a tiger's mouth. Fortunately, she had exchanged some fasting pills before. They could last for a while. She exchanged for fasting pills in case she ran out of food. If they wanted resources and wanted to survive, they had to rely on the strong and obtain the resources to survive. Ning Shu took out a small mirror from under the pillow and looked at his own face. He was indeed a pretty boy with red lips, white teeth, and a fair face without any facial hair. He was wearing a white coat. He was a gentle young man, but he still looked gay. As long as he could relieve his lust, it didn't matter if he was a man or a woman. Moreover, after the apocalypse, the ratio of men to women increased. Women couldn't compete with men in terms of physical strength and were more likely to suffer. This was especially true for delicate girls. When faced with such a situation, they were too scared to move. They were directly torn to pieces by the swarm of zombies. A face like the client's was still very eye-catching in the base. Ning Shu put down the mirror. From now on, she needed to train. She needed to learn how to fight and learn all kinds of skills to protect herself. Although she had exceptional martial arts, she still needed to train. These training sessions were for others to see. She was originally a weakling who could only pick up test tubes and do all kinds of experiments to analyze data. Wouldn't it be suspicious if she suddenly became so strong? After learning how to use guns in close combat, she would see who would dare to suppress her. When Ji Xiang was thrown out of the base, he was suppressed and thrown out. Ning Shu couldn't help but touch her butt. So many people were thinking about it. As for going to find Hu Jingqing, she wouldn't go. With Hu Jingqing's status, he wouldn't take the initiative to come to her. He was waiting for her to show weakness. He let her go before because he wanted her to get lost with him willingly. He was playing hard to get. He was also using this method to pressure her. Chapter 2165. Ning Shu continued to train. Training more was definitely a good thing. If there was thunder, she would go upstairs to welcome the baptism of lightning, but there was no thunder. The next day, Ning Shu woke up early to run. The air was too bad, so Ning Shu wore a mask and ran in circles around the base. Hua Jingqin saw Ning Shu running from the dormitory. He put on his shirt and ran towards Ning Shu. Hua Jingqin ran very fast and reached Ning Shu in an instant. He ran side by side with Ning Shu and said, "There is not much food now. Can you handle it if you train like this?" Ning Shu laughed in her heart. He was just reminding her that there was no food now. If she wanted to eat, she could just ask. Ning Shu did not say anything and increased her speed. Hua Jingqin followed Ning Shu closely. His face was not red and he was not out of breath. It was enough to see how good Hua Jingqin's physique was. Before the apocalypse, Hua Jingqin was already a powerful person. Hua Jingqin seemed to have found some fun. He followed Ning Shu and ran back and forth. After running, Ning Shu went to learn close combat. There was a place in the base that specialized in this. After all, everyone in the base could contribute to the killing of zombies. Hua Jingqin also followed to train. He even became Ning Shu's coach. He controlled Ning Shu's body and did not allow her to move. "Why do you want to train?" Ning Shu only said, "The world is too dangerous. I have to protect myself. You are so thin and weak. It is better for you to stay in the lab. This kind of sweating and bleeding is not suitable for you," Hua Jingqin said. Ning Shu felt that Hua Jingqin's thing was sticking up and pressing against her butt. It was like a toy poodle. Ning Shu stepped on Hua Jingqin's foot. Hua Jingqin let go of Ning Shu. Ning Shu found someone else to train. Hua Jingqin touched his lips with his thumb. His eyes were fixed on Ning Shu's buttocks. Ning Shu was speechless. Wherever he went, his gaze would follow. It was a teddy bear in human form. In fact, Ning Shu knew that he had mastered some close-range combat techniques. However, under Hua Jingqin's stare, Ning Shu's performance was very clumsy, and some of his movements were unfocused. Hua Jingqin's eyes were very sharp. She was a little worried that he would be able to tell. After training in close combat, Ning Shu went to learn how to shoot. Hua Jingqin followed Ning Shu. When he saw Ning Shu holding a gun and wearing earplugs, he went over and hugged Ning Shu from behind. He held Ning Shu's hand that was holding the gun with both hands. "Look at the target." "Ning Shu, what the fuck?" Ning Shu felt that something was rubbing against her back. Could it be that the apocalypse had such a huge impact on people that they had become so direct and undisguised? The people behind her couldn't wait to press her to the ground, regardless of whether there was anyone around. How immoral. This kind of top clan should be confiscated for committing crimes. "Shoot. Aim at the bull's eye." Hua Jingqin's deep voice sounded. It was hoarse, low, and suppressed. It gave people a very sexy feeling. Ning Shu casually fired a shot. It was very far from the bull's eye. Hua Jingqin's hand was placed on Ning Shu's waist. His thumb was rubbing against Ning Shu's waist through his shirt. Hua Jingqin's hand was very large and rough. There were calluses on it. It was a kind of itchy feeling when it rubbed against her skin through her clothes. Ning Shu couldn't help but have goosebumps all over her body. Even the hair on her arms stood up. Ning Shu waved away Hua Jingqin's hand on her waist and changed to a small cubicle training room. Hua Jingqin leaned against the door of the training room. A soldier came over and said something to Hua Jingqin. Hua Zhengqin looked serious and knocked on the door of the small cubicle. Ning Shu saw Hua Zhengqin's serious face through the glass and opened the door. Hua Zhengqin said to Ning Shu, "I'm going to do a mission. Be careful in the base. If there's anything, tell them my name. Be good and wait for me to come back." Ning Shu twitched the corner of her mouth. She closed the door, put on her earplugs, and began to practice. Hua Zhengqin raised his eyebrows. He always felt that the shy girl had turned into a little wild cat. He had spent a lot of effort to turn this researcher gay. It wasn't easy to succeed, but this guy ran away halfway. After Hua Zhengqin left, Ning Shu focused even more on her gun practice. Seeing that it was about time, she packed up and went to the research institute. Ning Shu put on the white lab coat. The white lab coat always gave people a feeling of abstinence. It was snow white and made people want to dye it black. Ning Shu pressed the person wearing the white lab coat under his body. Ning Shu ran his fingers through his hair. Being handsome was also troublesome. If it was a peaceful time, being a celebrity would be a big deal. But now, both men and women were thinking about it. It was scary. Ning Shu was really afraid that he would become a prostitute. Moreover, it was with a man. It was so painful to relieve himself. There were many researchers in the lab, all kinds of equipment, and zombie corpses. The corpses were lying there unrecognizable. Some of them were soaked in preservative. Since the outbreak of the apocalypse, humans had been studying how to control the virus. But sometimes, the changes were too fast. In addition, humans had taken all kinds of antibiotic drugs before, causing their bodies to produce antibodies. They were almost immune to all kinds of poisons. If they were bitten or scratched by zombies, they could only watch as they turned into zombies. Drugs couldn't do anything. Therefore, the research institute was under a lot of pressure. They didn't even know the source of the virus and how it was produced. Ning Shu felt even more bitter. It was a bit difficult to come up with a drug that could control the virus within the time limit set by the task. This was almost the most difficult task Ning Shu had ever done. Looking at the complicated and shining machines, Ning Shu felt a bit numb. Fortunately, the person who asked for this task was familiar with how to use these machines. Ning Shu used a microscope to look at the zombie cells. A normal person's cells had a cell membrane, a cell fluid, and a nucleus. The nucleus carried the human body's genes. However, the zombie cells were dividing very quickly. It was very fast. In a short while, they could divide into many cells. He didn't know what kind of virus caused the zombie cells to divide continuously. Moreover, they could still move after death. They relied on their instincts to hunt and absorb energy to complete the cell division. It was too difficult to find a solution because there was too much pollution. Water pollution, all kinds of heavy metal pollution, oil pollution, and nuclear pollution. All of these could cause genetic mutations. Perhaps it was some kind of stimulation that stimulated the genetic defects in the human body. That was why the cells could divide like this. The cells that were divided died very quickly. The zombie's body was like a fast-running machine, and it was endless. Maybe it would self-destruct, but no one knew when. When the zombies self-destructed, humans would no longer exist. Damn, the task was so complicated. There were 2 mountains pressing down on him. No, 3 mountains. There was a safe space to study how to eliminate zombies. There was also the human teddy bear Hua Zhengqin. Ning Shu smiled. This was too difficult. Chapter 2166. Hua Zhengqin went on a mission and didn't come back for a few days. After the apocalypse, many empty cities were filled with wandering zombies. If they wanted to find food and resources, they had to travel far away. The further they were from the base, the more dangerous it was. Communication was cut off, and they couldn't get reinforcements in time. Just thinking about it was like licking blood on a knife's edge. Everyone was struggling to survive. Ning Shu didn't understand Ji Xiang's feelings towards Hu Jingqing. He probably didn't hate him. When the law of the jungle was followed, he was abandoned. This was a very common thing in the apocalypse. After seeing too much, one would become numb. This was human nature. Human nature couldn't stand the test. However, under such circumstances, the occasional light of humanity seemed very precious. It was normal to choose something that was more beneficial to oneself and the base. She probably wouldn't have anything to do with Hu Jingqing. Ning Shu felt that if Hu Jingqing didn't provoke her and rubbed against her body, she wouldn't provoke him. However, if Hu Jingqing wanted her butt and wanted to get it, he couldn't blame her for making his thing unable to stand up again. That way, he wouldn't poke people like a teddy bear. Ning Shu wasn't worried about Hu Jingqing at all. He had a protagonist's aura, and his strength wasn't weak. Ning Shu trained every day. After training, she manipulated all kinds of data in the laboratory and thought of ways to study the newly returned zombies. Then, the zombies' bodies mutated again. The cells divided faster, but they died soon after. The zombies' rotten appearance should have something to do with the dead cells. The cells divided violently and died soon after. Ning Shu felt that this thing was really difficult for her to deal with. If these cells just kept dividing and didn't die, then what would the zombies become? Would these cells divide into some strange tissues, such as 2 heads and 4 hands? It would be even more difficult to deal with then. The zombies were fine now. They moved slowly and were brittle. As long as their heads were shot, they would die. She really didn't know what to do, especially now that the conditions were not good for further research. There were insufficient resources and equipment, but the people in the base wanted to come up with something to deal with the zombies. Ning Shu only wanted to say that he was under a lot of pressure. Although there wasn't much progress in the research, Ning Shu's cultivation and physical training were gradually catching up. Although he still looked like a cut chicken, he was now very strong and his muscles were more powerful. After taking off his clothes, there were still some muscles. The lines of his muscles were very smooth, and there were no bulging muscles. However, such muscles were the most explosive. After Hu Jingqing left, Ning Shu felt that more and more people were staring at his butt. Ning Shu felt like he couldn't protect his butt at any time. Of course, those who were on top could relieve their desires, but it was a little more likely for those who were on top. The muscles in that area would always relax, and it was really frustrating. Ning Shu's priority was to protect his anus. He couldn't wash his intestines here, so he couldn't allow himself to be suppressed in all aspects. Perhaps it was because Hu Jingqing's name was a little intimidating. Although there were many covetous gazes, no one dared to really do anything to him. This was why he needed to find a strong person to rely on. That way, no one would dare to bully him, and he would be able to obtain the resources he needed to survive. She didn't know if Hu Jingqing would bring back Ping and Shun this time. She didn't even know how to separate that space from Ping and Shun. It was difficult. Ning Shu sweated and trained his body. His brain was about to explode as he tried to think of a way to solve the zombie problem. If there was no progress, the researchers would become the most ordinary people in the base. They would only have very little food and drink dirty water every day. Everyone in the research institute tensed up. Ning Shu felt like he should eat some walnuts to nourish his brain. Otherwise, he would lose all his hair. A few days later, Hu Jingqing returned from his mission. Trucks drove back to the base one after another, bringing back living resources and daily necessities. Of course, the people in the base welcomed Hu Jingqing's return as if he was a hero. Ning Shu stood upstairs and leaned against the railing. He looked at Hu Jingqing and the trucks. It seemed that he had robbed a supermarket to bring back so many supplies. Ning Shu glanced around and didn't find Ping and Shun in the team. He didn't pay much attention to it and returned to the research institute. He fiddled with the zombie cells every day. Under the microscope, he injected some drugs into the cells and then observed the changes in the cells. Normal drugs didn't do much damage to the cells and couldn't stop them. There was also a zombie in the research institute. It was locked in a bulletproof glass. The zombie couldn't speak, and it could only make muffled sounds. Its eyes had no power, and its pupils had shrunk. Only the whites of its eyes were left. Its body was gray, and it looked like a corpse. This virus caused humans to be like the living dead after they were infected. They relied on their sense of smell to hunt. The research institute injected some drugs into the zombies every day. These drugs were used to kill zombies, and they had to be produced. No matter how much the zombies struggled, they were still alive. On the other hand, the researchers had to prevent themselves from being scratched or bitten every time they injected the drugs into the zombies. If they were infected, they would turn into zombies and become monsters without consciousness. They would also be used by the research institute for research. The process of infection was very painful, and it was daunting. Ning Shu sighed. Every time she came out of the research facility, she was always tired. If she was asked to punch a zombie's forehead, it would be a piece of cake. But to use such a roundabout method to deal with a zombie, it was really too damn tiring. After leaving the research institute, Ning Shu found Hu Jingqing waiting for her at the door. He probably took a shower, so Hu Jingqing didn't look as gray as before. Hu Jingqing saw Ning Shu and walked over to Ning Shu. He said, "I found some good stuff this time." Ning Shu thought, what does it have to do with me? Even if there was something good, it wouldn't be her turn to use it or eat it. It was better not to know, so she wouldn't be greedy. Moreover, she had fasting pills, so she didn't need to eat every day. Hu Jingqing moved closer to Ning Shu's ear and said in an ambiguous tone, "This time I found lubricants and all kinds of things to liven things up." Ning Shu thought. Ha! 3 sentences couldn't be separated from this topic. He lived up to the name of a human teddy bear. Ning Shu said expressionlessly, "Keep it for yourself." Ning Shu felt that her soul was about to be polluted. "Can you be more reserved? Please be more reserved." Hu Jingqing's burly body leaned over Ning Shu, blocking Ning Shu in a corner. "I want to fuck you." Chapter 2167. Ning Shu felt that it was time to get rid of Hu Jingqing. Hu Jingqing was always like this. However, Hu Jingqing was very important in the base and could find resources every time he went out. If Hu Jingqing died, the base would definitely investigate. As the person who was closest to Hu Jingqing, she would be the first to be suspected. If possible, Ning Shu really wanted to go out and fight zombies. She didn't want to stay in the lab and worry about this and that. In this kind of situation, she could only stand firm if she could kill enemies and find resources. The lab was a department that burned money and didn't have any achievements. She would definitely be looked down on. However, research wasn't something that could be done easily. It took a lot of effort and couldn't be done in a short period of time. Hu Jingqing saw Ning Shu's speechless face and said, "Do you want to go to your room or mine?" Hu Jingqing grabbed Ning Shu's arm and used his rough thumb to stroke Ning Shu's arm. His actions were ambiguous, but his face was resolute. Ning Shu felt that it was better to cripple Hu Jingqing. Ning Shu smiled and asked, "I want to know if you're the one on top of me or if I'm the one on top of you." "Of course I'm the one on top of you. You want to be on top of me with your body?" Hu Jingqing said matter-of-factly. Ning Shu thought, "Fuck, sorry, I don't want to play this game with you." Ning Shu said directly and tried to break free from Hu Jingqing's grip. Hu Jingqing frowned, "What's wrong with you?" "I'm straight, very straight. So I can't get over this kind of thing no matter how hard I try." "So?" Ning Shu puffed out his chest, "I'm a real man." Let go. Ning Shu's arm was hurting from Hua Jingqing's grip. Hua Jingqing said, "Don't run away from your heart. You're actually a very gay person. Don't resist. You'll be very happy." Ning Shu said, "No, being stabbed doesn't feel good at all." Hua Jingqing frowned. Could it be that this guy was straight again? It shouldn't be. There were special feelings between people of the same kind, just like the feelings between men and women. Hua Jingqing was sure that this guy was definitely gay, but he was too embarrassed to admit it, so he didn't want to admit it. Look at the time. Men and women aren't that important. Living and enjoying life is more important. Hua Jingqing tempted Ning Shu. Come on, let's do it. There's plenty of time anyway. Ning Shu reached out and grabbed Hua Jingqing's wrist, which hurt his arm. Then, he threw Hua Jingqing over his shoulder. When Hua Jingqing saw Ning Shu's posture, he knew that Ning Shu was going to throw him over his shoulder. He didn't resist and let Ning Shu do whatever he wanted. After all, Ning Shu wasn't strong enough to throw him over his shoulder. Ning Shu got into a horse stance, exerted strength in his waist, and threw Hua Jingqing over his shoulder. Hua Jingqing was extremely shocked, and then he fell to the ground with a bang. Ning Shu stepped on Hua Jingqing's chest and squashed it. I'm straight. Ahem. Hua Jingqing coughed, and his face turned red. As he coughed, he said with a smile, "It seems that you've improved rapidly while I was away. Now, you even have the strength to fight with me." Ning Shu chuckled. Of course. I'm a researcher after all. Of course, I'm smarter than the average person. Hua Jingqing wanted to grab Ning Shu's ankle and pull Ning Shu to the ground. Ning Shu retracted his foot, and Hua Jingqing missed. Hua Jingqing stood up from the ground, touched his aching chest, and got into a fighting stance. Ning Shu moved his neck. Then let's fight. You keep rubbing against me and poking me. I'll let you know that I'm not that easy to bully. I won't let you do whatever you want. Ning Shu also got into a fighting stance. At the same time, he attacked Hua Jingqing. Every move was fatal, aiming for his joints and neck, and aiming for the body's weak points. Hua Jingqing was a person who had fought zombies. He had a lot of experience, and he had a strong sense of danger. If he encountered any danger, his body would automatically activate, and he could also make moves and arcs that went against science to avoid danger. Ning Shu wasn't really a rookie in wrestling. The two of them exchanged punches and punches, causing all the muscles in their bodies to tremble. Hua Jingqing originally wanted to teach this weak kid a lesson. He was interested in playing with him for a while, but it would be boring if he played for too long. Moreover, he went out and experienced life and death. He was under a lot of pressure, and he needed to vent. At this time, he naturally came to find Ji Ziang. He didn't expect Hua Jingqing to be so disobedient, but when they fought, he felt that Hua Jingqing had a lot of strength. This forced Hua Jingqing to take him seriously. Hua Jingqing used all his strength and stretched out his leg. It seemed that if he was kicked, he would definitely break a bone. Ning Shu didn't show any weakness. She stretched out her leg, and when the two legs touched, there was a cracking sound. No one knew whose leg was injured. Hua Jingqing reached for the gun at his waist. Ning Shu lifted her white coat and pulled out her gun, pointing it at Hua Jingqing. Both of them pointed their guns at each other. Even the onlookers didn't dare to get close. Who knew if they would be implicated? Hua Jingqing looked at Ning Shu, who was wearing a white coat and holding a gun. She had a cold expression on her face. Her eyes were too sharp, and it made her thin body explode with a lot of strength. Hua Jingqing pulled the trigger, and Ning Shu opened fire. Both of them quickly dodged the bullets, and even fired at each other while dodging. The onlookers were speechless. Weren't they good friends? But now, it seemed like they were playing for real. They didn't expect a weak researcher to be able to fight with a squadron leader. The strong always deserved respect. Many people didn't dare to stare at Ning Shu's butt with burning eyes anymore. If Hu Jingqin felt offended and killed him, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. Not only did humans die in the hands of zombies, but they also died in their own hands. Ning Shu and Hu Jingqin didn't have any intention of stopping, and the more they fought, the fiercer they became. Hu Jingqin didn't expect that after going out for a while, the little white flower became a man-eating flower. Ji Xiang was a gentle and harmless man who only had eyes for experiments. Now, he wanted to learn how to fight, and he even knew how to use a gun. What made him change like this? Was it because he didn't want to roll with him? That was ridiculous. Was he still trying to suppress him? No matter what, Hu Jingqin couldn't stop now. He was a squadron leader with outstanding military achievements. Today, he couldn't even beat a weak researcher. How could he show his power in front of his teammates? What prestige did he have left? Especially if she was defeated by this white chicken this time, it would be impossible to suppress him again. With such a tough attitude, it would not be easy to get this man. Chapter 2168. This was related to his honor. This was a battle of honor, and that was why he got so many supplies for the base. He was supposed to be the hero of the base, but if he was defeated now, no amount of credit would be as fast as gossip spreading. Ning Shu was determined to let Hu Jingqin know that she wasn't someone he could easily bully. Under Ning Shu's mental power, she knew exactly where Hu Jingqin was hiding, but she wouldn't kill him. Hu Jingqin was a powerful man in the base for a while. The leaders of the base needed people like him to fight off zombies and find supplies for the base. The base was filled with gunshots, which attracted the attention of the leaders. Ning Shu and Hu Jingqin finally stopped, but as punishment, both of them were criticized by the entire base. Under the mediation of the leaders, Ning Shu and Hu Jingqin shook hands and made peace. Hu Jingqin's fingers were scratching Ning Shu's palm. Ning Shu held Hu Jingqin's hand tightly. Did it hurt? Hu Jingqin looked at Ning Shu without any change in his expression. When the two of them went out, they squeezed at the door at the same time. Hu Jingqin smiled and went out first. His knee accidentally brushed against her crotch. Ning Shu thought, what the fuck? Ning Shu caught up with Hu Jingqin in front of her and hit Hu Jingqin's waist with her palm. A wisp of fiery sun energy entered Hu Jingqin's body. Hu Jingqin turned around and looked at Ning Shu. He asked, touching my waist, are you regretting it? Do you want to? Ning Shu laughed and walked past Hu Jingqin. Hu Jingqin squinted his eyes and looked at Ning Shu's back. He touched his lips and laughed. Ning Shu went back to her room and took a shower. There was too much dust on her body, so she had to take a shower. She felt a lot more comfortable after taking a shower. She felt like she was flying when she walked. It felt great. Ning Shu used the law of water to condense some water. After drinking the water, she sat cross-legged on the metal bed and started to cultivate. When it was time to eat, a soldier brought food to Ning Shu. This time, it was even worse. There were only a few pieces of hardtack and no water. The soldier who delivered the food didn't dare to look at Ning Shu with his lustful eyes anymore. Everyone in the base knew that Hu Jingqin and Ji Xiang had fallen out with each other. Ning Shu put the hardtack down and asked, where's the water? There was no more canned food, and now there was no more water. She was forced to drink formalin solution. The soldier said, Captain Hu said that there isn't much water right now. Please hold on for a while. Captain Hu also said that if you want to drink water, you can go to him. He will try his best to give you some. Ning Shu just laughed. She didn't care about Hu Jingqin's methods. Of course, with Hu Jingqin's contributions, it was too easy for him to deal with a small researcher like her. Other people didn't care about this kind of thing, and no one would stand up for her. Now, people couldn't even care about themselves, let alone other people's business. At this time, most people wouldn't blame Hu Jingqing. They would only say that Ning Shu didn't know what was good for her and offended Hu Jingqing. Now, it was normal for him to make things difficult for her. Ning Shu wouldn't go to Hu Jingqing at all. She had water, the power of law, and fasting pills. Ning Shu had already put away her hardtack. Although the hardtack didn't taste very good, it had been stored for a long time. Ning Shu took the vacuum bag from the laboratory and put the hardtack in it to suck out the air. When the client came back, there should be a lot of hardtack. This way, she didn't have to bow down to Hu Jingqing. It wasn't impossible for her to leave the base. There were so many people, and this wasn't the only base. Wouldn't it be too crowded? Food and water were the foundation of survival. Hu Jingqing used this method to make things difficult for her, and no one would say anything. Ning Shu just laughed. After the fight last time, Hu Jingqing didn't make things difficult for Ning Shu. However, every time he saw Ning Shu, he would touch his lips with his fingers and reveal a devilish smile. Ning Shu didn't know what to say. I hope you'll always be like this, Teddy. The research in the laboratory was in a deadlock. There was no way to stop the zombie cells from dividing quickly. There was also no way to cure the infection after being bitten by zombies. Ning Shu wanted the nuclei of the cells to explode automatically. Then, without the genetic material, the cells wouldn't be able to divide. Some drugs were injected into the cells, but it was useless. Using poison to fight poison, injecting heavy metals or reflective substances would only make the cells more mutated. Instead of doing research like this, it was better to drive the zombies to a place, throw a bomb, and quickly solve the problem. Simple and efficient. Although that was what Ning Shu thought, she couldn't say it out loud. After all, the ideal of researchers was to use technology to conquer the world. Ning Shu thought that she would stay in the laboratory forever. She didn't expect Hu Jingqing to report that he would take Ning Shu with him when he went out for a mission. The reason was that Ji Xiang was so good at the research. It was a waste of talent to stay in the laboratory and fiddle with test tubes. It was better to kill some zombies with him. When Ning Shu received the order, her first reaction was that Hu Jingqing still wanted to sleep with her. He was always coveting her, but anything could happen once they were out of the base. Ning Shu felt that Hu Jingqing still didn't have enough yang energy in his body. It was still too slow for him to become a eunuch. Ning Shu changed into a clean set of clothes and carried a backpack. There were many things in the backpack, such as sulfuric acid and some irritating chemicals. Don't mess with me. Ning Shu arrived outside the base. Hu Jingqing was talking to his subordinates. When he saw Ning Shu come out with a backpack, he even reached out his hand to greet Ning Shu. Hi, Ning Shu also said, you want to sleep with me? Maybe you don't even know who died in the hands of the zombies. Ning Shu climbed onto the truck and stood with the other soldiers. When they saw a man with red lips and white teeth going out on a mission with them, most people thought that this guy would drag them down. Although he had the power to fight with the boss, it didn't mean that the boss didn't deliberately let him go to make it more interesting. The boss brought him this time to prevent him from being lonely on the road. Everyone looked at Ning Shu with subtle expressions. Ning Shu pretended not to see them. Everyone seemed to think of him as Hu Jingqing's accessory. The weak were the accessories of the strong. This was Ning Shu's first time out of the base. He looked at the surrounding scenery. The sky was full of dust. The trees on the roadside were covered with a thick layer of dust. There was a lot of dust in the air. Breathing in this kind of air was bad for the lungs. It could lead to lung cancer. Even if humans weren't killed by zombies, they could be killed by the harsh environment. Chapter 2169. Ning Shu felt that the plane was about to shatter. She was groaning. Ning Shu took out a mask and put it on. She wanted to absorb as little haze as possible so that it would be less harmful to her body. The other team members saw that Ning Shu was wearing a mask and looked at her with disdain. She was a weakling in the laboratory after all. She was so picky that she even wore a mask to fight zombies. Ning Shu felt that these people were suffering because of their pride. It was as if wearing a mask made them less powerful. What kind of logic was that? Hua Jingqing kept staring at Ning Shu. Ning Shu tried her best to ignore the way he looked at her as if she was his prey. She guessed that his inner OS was saying, "You've caught my attention." The team was quite far away from the base. Their purpose was to search for resources, but more importantly, to find a clean water source. If they found a clean water source, the base might even move to a nearby water source. There were very few places with clean water in the apocalypse. The river water was dirty and dark. It seemed that everything that could be polluted had already been polluted. She felt like she was at the end of the road. There was a vulgar and cliché saying that the last drop of clean water in the world was our own tears. It was a falsehood, and now it had been realized. If the environment could not be improved, humans would definitely go extinct. Perhaps after humans went extinct, the plane could repair itself. After a long period of self-repair, the creatures could evolve again. Perhaps this zombie was the self-repair of the heavenly Tao. But now that a space had appeared, the development of the situation took a turn. If this plane collapsed, the garbage produced would have a huge impact on the surrounding planes. At this time, people who specialized in garbage collection would be needed to deal with it. With her ability, she was not even qualified to be a garbage collector. Ning Shu beat her chest. What a sad thing. Even a garbage collector was stronger than her. Ning Shu's inner OS exploded. She ignored Hua Jingqing's gaze. Go fuck yourself. The smell of human flesh and blood attracted zombies. These zombies rushed towards the truck. Not only did they not care about the zombies, but the drivers also drove past them. They either ran over the zombies or knocked them far away and then got up and rushed towards the truck. Ning Shu smashed the zombie's head off with a stick. He was reluctant to use a bullet to blow its head off. Bullets had to be kept, and shooting the zombies' heads was like playing golf. Zombies without brains have no ability to move. This means that zombies still need their brains to move. I should go back and study the brains of zombies. Perhaps it was because of their sense of smell. They relied on the smell of flesh and blood to act instinctively. Ning Shu smashed the heads of the zombies with his stick, but he still left the heads in the truck. After getting through the zombie wave, Ning Shu took out a pair of surgical gloves and a scalpel, preparing to dissect the zombies' brains. Team members, this scene, seeing Ning Shu calmly cut open the zombie's head, revealing the smooth, grayish-white skull, everyone felt like vomiting. The feeling of killing zombies and dissecting zombies was different. It was like killing a person and then dissecting the person. Ning Shu took out a small saw and turned it on. The small saw spun quickly. Ning Shu placed the saw on the skull and cut it into a square. Finally, he opened the skull and revealed the grayish-white brain. Everyone couldn't stand it anymore. They all turned their heads. This was too disgusting. The brain of a normal person was white, but the brain of a zombie was grayish-white. It was in a state of decay but not decay. It was similar to the brains dissected in the laboratory. Perhaps there was still energy running in the brain, emitting bioelectricity. However, it needed the body to function. Instead of thinking about how to exterminate the zombies, it was better to think about how to prevent the virus from spreading in the body so that people who were bitten by zombies could be treated and not turn into zombies. It was easy to let her kill zombies, but to do research, Ning Shu's claws were numb. To some extent, it was also a case of humans eating their own medicine. Humans turning into monsters to destroy other humans, this was more ridiculous than monsters destroying humans. Ning Shu used the scalpel to remove the brain. There was no blood. Without blood to transport the nutrients the body needed, how could the zombies live? Everyone around, Wretch, Ning Shu studied for a while, threw the zombies' head out of the truck, disinfected the tools, put them in the box, and then sat down. The people sitting next to Ning Shu silently moved away from her. Killing zombies wasn't a skill, but fiddling with the zombie's brain without batting an eyelid showed that she was mentally strong. Were all researchers like this? On the way, they encountered a few more waves of zombies. Ning Shu observed that the zombies' strength was about the same. They moved slowly and their bodies were rotten. There were no mutations, such as increasing their speed, or other mutations. If that was the case, then humans would be cut like chives by the zombies. This should be considered a good news. They were afraid that the enemy's firepower would suddenly increase, and they would stay where they were. The sky slowly darkened. At night, humans' vision would be blocked, but zombies' sense of smell would not be affected, especially if they spent the night outside. Ning Shu saw that Hu Jingqing was still staring at her. She couldn't help but want to cover her butt. This bastard didn't want to have sex with her in front of the zombies, did he? While looking for a place to spend the night, they met a group of people. This group of people was driving a somewhat dilapidated van. The van was very dirty, and there was some unknown filth on it. Perhaps it was the brains of zombies, or perhaps it was something else. At this moment, these people were very excited when they saw several large trucks. They waved their hands and asked the trucks to stop. Ning Shu looked at these people, and they were all very embarrassed. In the end, Ning Shu's eyes fixed on a man. This man was wearing a dirty cotton t-shirt and a silver cross necklace. His face was ordinary and could be considered delicate, but now he looked a little embarrassed. He wore a cross and said that he was a Taoist, but he didn't know what to say. He should also wear a Tai Chi diagram or a yin-yang mirror. It would look more like a Taoist. Ning Shu looked at Hu Jingqing. Hu Jingqing would probably stop. After all, these two people were the official match. According to the rules of the team, they wouldn't bring strange people on missions. She didn't know what made Hu Jingqing look at them and accept them safely. This bastard was here. How was she going to deal with the thousands of soldiers in the space? There were no soldiers. Should she just kill him? Ning Shu said to 2333, "Can't we just kill him? I want to fight with him. The longer he lasts, the more power he will accumulate. Let's wait for the space to separate." 2333 said. Ning Shu rolled her eyes. She felt that 2333 wanted to accumulate power in the space so that he could absorb more power. Chapter 2170. 2333 was trying to slowly erase the host's luck. When the host was no longer of any help to the space would leave the host. Besides, the space still had a lot of power. However, she had to think about how to kill the other party. Ning Shu felt a little bitter. Ping and Shun walked under the truck and seemed to see that Hu Jingqing was the leader. He looked up and said to Hu Jingqing, "We have some supplies in the truck. Please take us with you. Our car is broken." Hearing Ping and Shun say that they had supplies, the people in the same group immediately glared at him. In the apocalypse, a bottle of water and a pack of biscuits were precious. Why did he say that? Everyone was cursing, and some of them even wanted to rush up and beat Ping and Shun up. However, when they saw Ping and Shun's cold face and how he killed zombies on the way, they didn't dare to do anything. Ping and Shun thought that these people were idiots. In the apocalypse, people were cold. People wouldn't help you for no reason. Plus, Ping and Shun really didn't care about the supplies in the van. Because he had a lot of space, he could not only store zombies, but also supplies. He had a lot of supplies in his space, almost as much as a small supermarket. Most of them were food and some daily necessities. In order to prevent accidents, Ping and Shun also stored a lot of oil. If it weren't for the van, Ping and Shun would have gotten rid of these people long ago. Plus, he was the one who killed zombies along the way. These idiots were complaining all kinds of things, which made him feel irritated. Now, he met someone who seemed to be stronger. Ping and Shun wanted to follow this group and develop in a bigger base. He didn't want to travel with these idiots anymore. Hua Jingqing looked at the man from top to bottom. Hua Jingqing definitely didn't care about the supplies. At most, it was some water, biscuits, and fast food. Hua Jingqing wanted to find a big supermarket to buy. However, Hua Jingqing thought that this man was really interesting. He just looked a little ordinary. He couldn't be compared to the red lips and white teeth of Ji Xiang. Fortunately, he had a slender body and was full of confidence. To be able to be so confident in the apocalypse, he obviously had some skills. Looking at the old van, there were 7 or 8 people. Zombies usually moved out in groups. Normally, when they smelled humans, they would swarm over. It was not easy for such a small van to travel so far. There must be something extraordinary about this team. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to escape the encirclement of zombies time and time again. Ping and Shun's team had a grudge against Ping and Shun, but they didn't dare to fight him. Hua Jingqing focused his attention on Ping and Shun. It seemed that this ordinary-looking man was in charge of this team. Hua Jingqing suddenly wanted to tease him. You gave us everything, but your team didn't agree to it at all. Besides, we're a team from the base, so we won't accept other random people. Who knows if you're from another base and want to know the situation in our base? In the post-apocalyptic world, zombies were not the only ones who would attack cities. If the conditions of a base were good, other bases would also try to take it for themselves. Bases with water sources were especially popular in everyone's eyes. Everyone wanted to have a piece of it. Water pollution was very serious now. Some water couldn't be 100% safe even after being filtered and purified. The process was very complicated, so it wasn't worth it to purify. Ping and Shun immediately said, I'm definitely not from another base. We're escapees. During our escape, we were lucky enough to come across a supermarket. There were some supplies in the van, but we're in the van now. Please accept us. We can fight zombies on our own. We won't be a burden. Hua Jingqing shook his head. The van is so small. How many supplies can there be? I don't even care about those supplies. Besides, my teammates are too weak. If they drag us down, the whole team will be wiped out. I have to be responsible for my teammates. Hua Jingqing was telling the truth. They were very far away from the base now. It was impossible for them to run back for these people. However, if they had to bring these people along, they would have to work together again. Who knew if these people would be troublesome? Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, bringing these people along was not a wise decision. It was a hot-headed decision. Hua Jingqing watched with great interest as this man tried to convince himself. Ning Shu looked on coldly. Usually, Hua Jingqing was very patient when it came to things that interested him. Now, he was interested in Ping and Shun. It was good that they met. She didn't want Hua Jingqing to disturb her all the time. She didn't have the time and energy to push Hua Jingqing to the ground. Ping and Shun raised his head and looked at the man who was looking down at him. His eyes were burning with a little bit of light. Being stared at by him like this, Ping and Shun felt his whole body tremble uncontrollably. Even his face couldn't help but heat up. Fortunately, his face was dark and covered in dust. Otherwise, he would be embarrassed by a man. There were so many people around, so it would be a joke. Ping and Shun took a deep breath and raised his head to look at Hua Jingqing. I know of a big supermarket. There are a lot of supplies inside. Hua Jingqing saw Ping and Shun's expression and felt a burst of joy. This was a man of the same kind, and a man who liked men. This discovery made Hu Jingqing very happy. Moreover, he had obtained a supermarket with supplies so quickly, which made Hu Jingqing happy. Hu Jingqing's expression was very cold. I don't know how far the supermarket you mentioned is from here, and I don't know if you're lying. Ping and Shun immediately said, you can take me with you. If you find out that I'm lying, you can shoot me. I won't say anything. You're very smart. You used this method to get me to take you in. Hu Jingqing smiled and reached out his hand. Grab my hand and get on. Ping and Shun looked at Hu Jingqing's big hand and actually swallowed a mouthful of saliva nervously. Ping and Shun despised himself in his heart. He was also a man. Why was he so nervous when he saw a man? His heart was about to jump out. Ping and Shun was pulled into the truck by Hu Jingqing. When the others saw Ping and Shun get into the truck, they immediately shouted, "What about us? What about us?" Hu Jingqing looked at these people's anxious expressions and said coldly, "Our team doesn't accept useless people. You can keep the supplies and food in your car for your own use. We don't want them either, but don't even think about getting on our car." It was obvious that these people were not obedient. One of them was dressed in a suit and wore an expensive watch. It was obvious that he was an elite. Chapter 2171. If they put these people in the team, they would drag the team to death. Not to mention, the lives of people in the apocalypse were worthless. Even if they died, they wouldn't feel anything. One of the men in the team suddenly scolded, "Which base are you from? How can you be so cruel? Aren't all the bases calling for humans to unite and move to the base? Is this how you treat people who want to go to your base? Yeah, this is outrageous. No, you can't leave today." Hu Jingqing's face turned serious. "Who do you think you are? How dare you challenge me? Did I tell you to go to our base? So what if our base doesn't take you in? People like you are nothing but parasites in our base. You want to use public opinion to suppress us? Dream on. You are too arrogant." The people in the team saw Hu Jingqing's firm attitude and didn't know what to say. People bullied the weak and feared the strong. When the other party was firm, these people softened. They almost begged, "We won't cause trouble for the team. Our car broke down. If we can't find the base, the consequences would be unimaginable." Moreover, the sky was getting dark. It was even more dangerous at night. Zombies could appear from all over the place. Staying overnight in the wild was a dead end, especially for people like them. Hu Jingqing's expression didn't change. Some people saw that Hu Jingqing couldn't get through, so they turned to Ping and Shun. Some people scolded Ping and Shun for being greedy. Some people said nice things to Ping and Shun, saying that they had supported and encouraged each other along the way. In short, they wanted Ping and Shun to beg for mercy and let them get on the car. Ping and Shun wouldn't agree. It wasn't easy for him to get on the car, and he even signed a military order. He only got on the car because he had something valuable on him. He didn't even have a firm foothold in the team, so how could he beg for mercy for these people? What if this burly and cold man threw him off the car too? When he thought of this man holding his hand, his fingers gently scratched his palm, bringing a numbing feeling. Half of Ping and Shun's body was numb. Ping and Shun frowned and didn't say anything. These people cursed at Ping and Shun, but Ping and Shun just pursed his lips and didn't say anything. Some daring people even climbed up. If they continued to stay like this, they would definitely die. A little bit of supplies was nothing at all. They could just give it to these people. Hu Jingqing sneered and took out his gun to shoot the people who wanted to climb into the car. The sound of gunshots calmed the rioting people down. Looking at the people lying on the ground with their heads blown open, their lips trembled. For a moment, the scene was dead silent. No one dared to rashly go up, especially when they saw that the other party was actually playing for real. If you have the ability, go to the base and complain about me. The premise is that you can reach the base. Hua Jingqing blew on the muzzle of the gun and sneered. Drive. The few cars started moving slowly. A few people stared blankly at the cars driving away. Finally, they came to their senses and chased after the trucks. Some people who couldn't run directly knelt on the ground, and some people wailed loudly. Ning Shu looked at these people who had become small dots and didn't say anything. She didn't have the right to make decisions in this team. If she said anything, Hua Jingqing might kick her out of the car. Ning Shu just hung high. She couldn't even control her own fate, let alone save people. If she wanted to save people, it would be better to kill a few more zombies. That way, no one would be bitten by this zombie, and no more zombies would appear. Here. Hua Jingqing gave Ping and Shun a bottle of water. Ping and Shun immediately took it and thanked him. Hua Jingqing sat next to Ping and Shun. Ping and Shun moved to the side. Hua Jingqing smiled and moved to Ping and Shun's side. Ping and Shun was speechless. Hua Jingqing's aura made it impossible for Ping and Shun to open the bottle. He was very nervous. Hua Jingqing raised his eyebrows. I can't open it. He took the bottle from Ping and Shun and opened it for him. Ping and Shun said, "Thank you." What did you say? Louder. Hua Jingqing moved closer to Ping and Shun. I can't hear you. Ping and Shun blushed and said loudly, "Thank you." Hua Jingqing dug his ears. That's more like it. You were so quiet. I thought you didn't eat. The crowd was speechless. Was it really okay to flirt with someone in front of so many people? Of course, there were also a lot of people who looked at Ning Shu with subtle expressions. Now that he had a new lover, what should he do with his old lover? Ning Shu felt that these people's gazes were mixed with pity and gloating. It was really strange that they were here to gossip. He and Hua Jingqing had never had any friction. These people's brains were filled with trash. Hua Jingqing also looked at Ning Shu and raised his eyebrows. It seemed that he wanted to make Ning Shu jealous. Ning Shu looked at Ping and Shun. Right now, Ping and Shun's strength shouldn't be that strong. The space didn't take in many zombies. This probably had something to do with the host's spiritual power. Right now, they couldn't take in a lot of zombies at once. Otherwise, Ping and Shun's head would explode. Right now, Ping and Shun should be easier to deal with. In the future, Ping and Shun could summon a lot of zombies with a wave of her hand. It would be so scary. Not to mention fighting, he didn't even have the confidence to look at it. Ping and Shun felt Ning Shu's gaze and looked back at her. In the eyes of outsiders, it was like seeing a love rival with red eyes. In the eyes of the people around them, the two of them looked at each other like this, including Hua Jingqing. Hua Jingqing suddenly felt that it wasn't bad to have such a person to stimulate Ji Xiang. Otherwise, he would always rely on his love for Ji Xiang to do whatever he wanted. Now that there was such a person who could make him feel a sense of crisis, wasn't it good? Hua Jingqing was happy that the two of them were messing around. The premise was that it wouldn't affect the search for supplies. Ning Shu looked at Ping and Shun with a calm gaze. There was no resentment or hatred. To Ning Shu, Ping and Shun was a stranger. She was here to work for someone else. Therefore, they were on opposite sides. On the other hand, Ping and Shun felt a bit of hostility towards Ning Shu. Perhaps it was because he was the most beautiful man in the car. Everyone else was covered in dirt, but this guy was actually red-faced and gentle. Also, when this cold and evil man came into contact with her, everyone in the car looked at him. He probably had an indescribable relationship with the leader of this team. Leader, it's getting dark. Let's find a place to stay. A team member broke the silence in the car and asked Hua Jingqing. Hua Jingqing looked at Ping and Shun and asked, "Where is the supermarket you mentioned?" Chapter 2172. Before they went on a mission, the base would give them a map. There were marked places on the map that had supplies. These places could be supermarkets or food factories. As for where the map came from, it was said that the base got it from a satellite. Their base used to be a military base, so it was relatively powerful. The military satellite could still receive signals. If they were close enough, they could go and take a look. If there were really supplies in the supermarket, they could return with a full load. It's not far from here. It's just a little remote. It's the biggest supermarket in the town. Ping and Shun said. Hua Zhengqin got closer to Ping and Shun. If it's so remote, how did you know? I escaped from there and got on that car. But the car broke down on the way, and then I met you guys. I hope you're not lying to me. Hua Zhengqin reached out and pinched Ping and Shun's neck. He didn't pinch hard, but his rough thumb stroked Ping and Shun's neck. Ping and Shun's neck turned red all the way to his hair. The thin calloused skin made his skin tremble. Ning Shu was speechless. Hua Zhengqin was flirting again, riding the wind and breaking the waves. As long as he didn't harass her, it was fine. Seeing the two of them together, Ning Shu was very happy. Let the two of them be lovey-dovey. She only needed to focus on her own matters. Go to the supermarket. We'll travel through the night. Hua Zhengqin looked at his watch. Forget it, let's take a break. Traveling through the night would be very tiring. If there were zombies attacking at this time, fatigue would increase the casualties. Hua Zhengqin cherished these team members very much. They were also the foundation of his base. Okay. Next, they found a place to stay. They stopped at a gas station to refuel the truck. Then, they took a large bottle of clinker and put the remaining oil in the car. These things were as precious as food. Without oil, the car couldn't move. Everyone stayed at the gas station. There was a small supermarket next to the gas station. The supermarket was in a mess, and there was no food on the shelves. Everyone was mentally prepared. Seeing that there was no food, they weren't disappointed at all. They took out the food they brought with them and started eating. Ning Shu also took out some biscuits and some water from his bag and sat down to eat. Hua Zhengqin gave Ping'an some soft packaged bread. He sat beside him and asked, "How far are we from the supermarket?" Ping'an moved to the side. The way Hua Zhengqin looked at him made his heart tremble. Ning Shu wasn't hungry at all. He ate a little to deceive others, and then leaned against the wall to sleep. In fact, he was cultivating. The team members all found a place to rest before changing shifts. Ning Shu, who was cultivating, felt very bitter. The air was really too turbid, to the point where it was unbearable. Would this planet become a planet that carried all the garbage in the future? The oxygen content was getting lower and lower. It wouldn't be long before this plane became uninhabitable. Then what was the use of a counterattack? Oh, perhaps it wasn't suitable for humans, but if the entire plane was purified, perhaps humans would be one of those purified. This was a little awkward. Ning Shu scanned the entire gas station with his spiritual power. The situation of the entire gas station was under Ning Shu's nose. Seeing Hua Zhengqin and Ping'an's ambiguous look, Ning Shu's eyes burned. Showing off love was a quick death. Fortunately, they didn't do that at the gas station. They probably took advantage of the time on the road to flirt with Ping'an. When they returned to the base, they would definitely do it with Ping'an. According to Hua Zhengqin's powerful flirtation, Ping'an was almost a turtle in a jar. Sure enough, there was nowhere to run. Although there were people on night watch, because it was night, Ning Shu still released his spiritual power to check the surroundings to prevent wandering zombies from sneaking up on them. Ning Shu absorbed the power of the fiery sun. There was no sunlight at night, and the fiery sun's energy was very weak. In addition, this plane itself was lacking in yang energy. Ning Shu cultivated for a long time, but there was basically no effect at all. It was simply a mess. "Boss, there are zombies." The team member reported to Hua Jingqing and vaguely heard the roar of zombies. They probably smelled the scent of humans and came here. The sound was getting closer and closer. Hua Jingqing's expression was dignified. It was night now, and there were many restrictions on combat. Although zombies moved slowly, they were very strong. If they were caught by zombies, few could escape. "Get up and be on guard. There are zombies surrounding us," Hua Jingqing said loudly. The team members who were still resting with their eyes closed opened their eyes in a second and took the guns and weapons in their hands. Ning Shu took a knife and a gun in his right hand. Ning Shu used his spiritual power to scan Ping An's expression in the dark. Ping An wasn't very nervous, which was very different from the vigilant and dignified people around her. In fact, the zombies were sending soldiers to Ping An. One came, one would be taken, and two would be taken. Moreover, the zombies in the space could be released to fight with the zombies. The zombies were getting closer and closer, with a strong smell of corrosion. The turbid air was mixed with a foul smell. This was the air of the apocalypse. Hua Jingqing took the lead and blasted the head of a zombie. The other zombies rushed over. Because it was dark, they could only rely on flashlights to illuminate the area. They didn't know exactly how many zombies there were. Ning Shu used his spiritual power to scan the area and felt that there were quite a lot of zombies this time. They were very ferocious and rushed over without fear of death. They were dominated by hunger. Ning Shu chopped off the head of a zombie that rushed over with a knife. He even turned on the small electric drill and sawed off the zombie's neck. Ning Shu had been paying attention to Ping An. When zombies rushed in front of him, he used his gun to shoot them. Then, some zombies disappeared into thin air. They were probably taken into his space. With the gun given by Hua Jingqing and the space's absorption ability, Ping An managed to withstand the zombies, but it was a bit difficult. Ning Shu approached Ping An and saw zombies appear around Ping An. These zombies didn't attack Ping An, but rushed towards the other zombies. Ning Shu just watched. It was good to let these zombies kill the other zombies, but he didn't know what kind of power the space used to make these zombies obedient and attack the other zombies. Moreover, the instinct of zombies was to eat meat, so the space could control their instincts. Oh, this space was a bit awesome. Ning Shu wore a mask and killed the zombies with all his might. The zombies that had been baptized by the space were stronger than ordinary zombies. At least they knew how to kill the enemy with skills. They were much better than the zombies that waved their hands and opened their mouths to bite people. They didn't care about the situation at all. Unfortunately, the space didn't have good intentions. Chapter 2173. That's right, a pie falling from the sky is either poisonous or smashing to death. And those who are chosen by the space are undoubtedly the lucky ones, making them more beautiful than the average person, more powerful than the average person, and receive the worship of the world. But the space has a purpose. The scene was very bloody, broken limbs and broken bones, Ning Shu killed without any psychological burden. Anyway, these are all dead people, and there is no soul in the body, they are just walking corpses. Ning Shu's spiritual power has been locked on the several zombies released by Ping An Shun. Seeing these zombies twist off the heads of other zombies, Ning Shu felt that he has never seen such a rare scene in his life. Because of the night, everyone is concentrating on killing the enemy, the actions of these zombies did not attract people's attention. If they are distracted, they will be scratched and bitten by the zombies. How can they dare to be distracted in this situation? Several team members were sacrificed, their intestines were torn and their stomachs were torn apart by the zombies, not even a complete body was left. There are also team members who were scratched. As long as they are scratched, they are basically declared that they are no longer human, and are gradually on the road to zombies. After a difficult battle, fortunately, the zombies were slowly cleaned up. Ping and Shun saw that the battle was about to end, so he let the zombies come back. Ning Shu raised his gun and directly shot a few times, directly exploding the heads of the zombies. Ping and Shun's expression was frozen, and the word was stuck in his throat. Ning Shu said to Ping and Shun, "I saw those zombies coming for you, so I killed them first." Ping and Shun's face twitched, and the whole person was not very good. Facing Ning Shu's eager eyes, Ping and Shun's mouth was like biting a bitter gall. If he said that these zombies would not kill him, wouldn't this arouse people's suspicion? Before he has a firm foothold, Ping and Shun will not easily show his talent. What if he is caught and studied by others? It is said that these viruses were created by those scientists. They studied this, then studied this, then studied this, then came up with something. If he wants to take a zombie into his body, he will be tired as if his body is hollowed out, very tired. There are not many zombies in his space, and now several have been killed. Ping and Shun's heart is very sad. What happened to you? Ning Shu looked at Ping and Shun's complexion as if he had been constipated for 2 months and asked with concern, "Are you all right? Were you bitten?" "I didn't," Ping and Shun said. Thank you, you killed my zombies and I still have to thank you. This feeling is really fucking ridiculous. Hua Zhengqin got rid of all the team members who had been scratched or bitten by zombies. There was no luck in getting infected. Killing them directly could prevent them from becoming zombies, and they wouldn't have to suffer the pain. Hua Zhengqin's hand that was holding the gun was shaking. In the end, he closed his eyes and killed the infected team member. "What are you talking about?" Hua Zhengqin turned around and saw Ning Shu standing peacefully with him. He walked over and asked. Hua Zhengqin's voice was a little hoarse, and there was a hint of sobbing in it. "It's nothing. This guy killed some zombies for me," Ping said to Hua Zhengqin. This feeling was too fucking bitter. It was not easy to collect these zombies, and it would take a long time for them to become obedient zombies. It didn't mean that they would instantly become obedient zombies as soon as they entered the space. His heart ached. Hua Zhengqin glanced at Ning Shu. Seeing that she was clean, he wondered if Ping and Shun was telling the truth. However, being able to survive a battle was also a skill. Hua Zhengqin didn't expect to suffer losses as soon as they came out. He felt a little depressed. Although coming out meant that there would be casualties, sometimes if they were lucky, they could come back in one piece without suffering any casualties. Hua Zhengqin glanced at Ping and Shun. They were attacked by zombies because they came here. Moreover, there were so many zombies. Could it be that the supermarket was fake? Many supermarkets were empty, but there was a supermarket with a lot of supplies here. Hua Zhengqin was in a bad mood, and so was Ping and Shun. Ning Shu saw that the two bosses were looking at her with a secretive look on their faces. She walked away quietly and gave them a chance to flirt. Hua Zhengqin approached Ping and Shun retreated. In the end, he leaned against the wall and couldn't retreat. Hua Zhengqin put his hand on the wall behind Ping and Shun. "You better have something in the supermarket you mentioned. Otherwise, you know the consequences." Ping and Shun pushed Hua Zhengqin away. "It's up to you whether you want to believe me or not." "Why would I lie to you? What good would it do me to lie to you? Don't blame me for your teammates' deaths. Besides, there are zombies everywhere. Wouldn't you be surrounded by zombies if you went somewhere else?" Ping and Shun knew that Hua Zhengqin was venting his anger on him because of his team member's death. However, he was still angry. Who could he vent his anger on? However, he knew that he had to follow the team. Otherwise, it would be difficult for him to reach the base alone. Ping and Shun adjusted his tone and said, "Do you know why there are so many supplies here? It's because there are so many zombies here. Zombies don't eat human food, so the supplies in the supermarket can be preserved. So, it's not easy for us to come here." Hua Zhengqin raised Ping and Shun's chin. "Then why didn't you tell us the details before?" Ping and Shun asked back, won't you run into zombies when you go out? The world is full of zombies now. No matter where you go, there will be zombies. Do I need to tell you? You have a sharp tongue. Hua Jingqing touched Ping and Shun's lips with his finger and stared at his lips. You missed the best opportunity for me to trust you. Is there something you haven't told me? Hua Jingqing played with Ping and Shun's lips. You better tell me the truth. Otherwise, you'll be very unlucky. Ping and Shun's heart tightened. He thought that Hua Jingqing was talking about him being able to release zombies. He shook his head and said, no, I'm not hiding anything from you. Hua Jingqing's hand slid down to Ping and Shun's butt and pinched it. Don't let me find out that you have any thoughts of dying. I'll make sure you die in a very rhythmic way. Ning Shu, who was eavesdropping, clap 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 clap, clap 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 rhythm. Because of the loss of one of their team members, the atmosphere in the team was a bit low. Everyone was not in a very good mood. Hua Jingqing gathered everyone together and said that they would run into more zombies. It might be a dense zombie attack, so he asked if they should continue walking. Although they had to obey the orders of their superiors, Hua Jingqing still wanted to ask the team members if they should continue walking. He wanted everyone to be mentally prepared. They might even lose a lot and not gain anything in the end. Chapter 2174. Ning Shu didn't have any objections. Since the two main characters were here, all he had to do was follow in their footsteps. Those who died would be cannon fodder. In this team, Ning Shu and Ping and Shun didn't have the right to speak. If he objected, Hua Jingqing might just kick him out and kick him out. He wasn't really asking for his opinion. If he had any opinions, he could just keep them to himself. Outside, it wasn't the base, so Hua Jingqing could do whatever he wanted. Even if Ning Shu died, he could just go back to the base and say that he died. No one would investigate. Too many people died every day during the apocalypse. They had to investigate one by one. Moreover, they weren't important people. Ping and Shun didn't say anything because he was a newcomer. He didn't have the right to speak. Everyone discussed for a while and decided to move forward. Now that there were fewer and fewer resources, they had to pay a price to get more resources. Everyone could only try their best to survive being surrounded by zombies. Ning Shu followed the team. The next morning, the team left the gas station and went to the supermarket that Ping and Shun mentioned. On the way, they encountered wandering zombies. There were still a lot of zombies in this place. There were zombies on the streets and in all kinds of buildings. Ning Shu couldn't help but look at Ping and Shun. To be able to escape from such a place, the protagonist's halo must be shining. Could it be that he turned invisible so that the zombies couldn't see him? It was impossible to not see him. He had to hide his scent so that the zombies couldn't find him. Hey, Ning Shu found a new way to deal with zombies. That was to put a thin layer of invisible barrier on his body. This way, the zombies couldn't smell him. He hid his scent. He really praised himself for being quick-witted. The barrier couldn't be seen by the naked eye. This way, he had a much higher chance of surviving under the siege of zombies. Sure enough, being in a daze was the best way to think. The thin barrier covered Ning Shu's body so that the zombies couldn't detect his scent. Even if the zombies walked in front of him, the zombies wouldn't notice him. It wouldn't matter if he went deep into the zombie crowd. But the problem was, if he behaved differently, would it be noticed by others? She didn't need to set up a barrier. It wasn't like she couldn't defeat zombies. Seeing that there was a car coming, zombies from all directions rushed to this side. Be alert and prepare for battle. Hua Jingqing said in a deep voice. He held a submachine gun in his hand. This type of gun had a long range, so it was good for dealing with zombies. In addition to guns, there were also bombs. They were miniature bombs, but they were very precious. There were a lot of bullets, but these miniature bombs could no longer be produced. Every time they were used, there would be one less. Unless it was a last resort, they wouldn't use them. Ning Shu also held a gun and shot at the zombie's head. The zombie's brain directly burst open. Even if its head burst open, the zombie's body was still lying on the ground twitching. It wanted to get up but couldn't. These zombies were really tenacious. Ping Shun also fired, but he probably didn't have any training. His gun skills weren't very good, and most of his shots hit the zombie's body. This kind of injury was nothing to the zombies. Even if the zombies had their hands cut off and their intestines spilled out, they could still run. Seeing that there was a zombie in front of Ping Shun that was about to climb into the car, Ning Shu hit the zombie's head. The zombie's brain burst open and splashed on Ping Shun's face. Ping Shun quickly wiped the brain and took the time to thank Ning Shu. However, his face didn't look like he was thanking Ning Shu, because his face didn't look good. After dodging a wave of zombies, the car sped up and headed to the destination. Ping Shun sat down weakly. He quickly wet a handkerchief with water and wiped the brain on his face. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he felt that the zombie's brain was stinky. He didn't know if he would be infected by the virus. Hua Jingqing saw Ping Shun's pale face and couldn't help but laugh. As long as there were no wounds, he wouldn't be infected by the zombies. Ning Shu loaded the gun and sneered in his heart. Even if Ping Shun was bitten by a zombie, the space would suppress the virus for him. Ping Shun wouldn't become a zombie. The car bumped a bit. More zombies were coming. There were already so many zombies before they reached the destination. When they returned, there would be a lot more zombies attacking them. Hua Jingqing's face became more and more serious. He was full of hostility. He was especially fierce when he was fighting the zombies. His shooting was very accurate, and he took one head after another. Ning Shu thought about it and set up a shallow invisible enchantment on her body. If the zombies caught her, even if there was a way to suppress the virus, she would be killed by Hua Jingqing on the spot. Moreover, if she controlled the virus, the base would definitely ask her to hand over the method to control the virus. What if she couldn't hand it over? There were so many troublesome things to deal with. This world relied on unity to survive. Individual strength couldn't survive at all. If it was a peaceful time, she wouldn't work for them anymore. She would find another job to support herself, but the conditions didn't allow her to do so. She still had to figure out a way to deal with the zombies. She felt stifled. Ning Shu thought that it was possible to save this world, but it wouldn't take long for everything to be purified. The most important purpose of her counterattack should be to solve this space that wanted to swallow this broken plane of heaven. This space wanted to form its own world and control all the creatures in the plane. It was the first time he saw such an ambitious system. It wanted to form its own world, while other systems wanted to plunder luck like a thief. The more daring a person was, the bigger their appetite. It was also suitable for this space. Under the siege of zombies, they almost didn't have a chance to breathe. When they finally could breathe, Hua Jingqing asked Ping Shun, "Why are there so many zombies here?" Ping Shun shook her head and said, "It's probably because the transportation here isn't very developed." Ning Shu also felt that this place was quite desolate, except for a road that led to the outside. "You're from here?" Hua Jingqing asked Ping Shun. Ping Shun nodded, "I'm from here, but I escaped." Ning Shu used his spiritual power to scan Ping Shun's body to see if there were any traces of zombie scratches or bites on Ping Shun's body. So many zombies were able to escape. Even if he had the protagonist's aura, he couldn't kill zombies with his gaze and let zombies explode their heads. Ning Shu saw that there seemed to be some bite marks on his thighs and shoulders, but they were covered by his clothes. This situation made Ning Shu think more. Ping Shun had been bitten by zombies before, but now he was like a normal person. Chapter 2175. What if he started from there? Ning Shu was in a daze again. The car drove to the entrance of a supermarket. The supermarket was really big and had several floors. Zombies were wandering around the entrance. When they saw people, they surrounded them. There were no people here, only zombies. How could zombies survive if they couldn't replenish their body's energy? In short, zombies were quite unscientific. They weren't zombies that absorbed the essence of the sun and the moon, nor were they ghosts. They were just rotten corpses that were supported by some kind of power. All the team members got out of the car and took out their guns to shoot the zombies at the entrance of the supermarket. Then, they walked into the supermarket. There were a lot of supplies in the supermarket. The shelves were full of goods, but some of the shelves were knocked to the ground by zombies. The vegetables and fruits were rotten. Some of the meat was eaten by the zombies wandering in the supermarket. There were some zombies in the supermarket's uniform. There were security guards, men, and women. Ning Shu saw that there were clothes, so he stuffed 2 pairs of underwear into his pocket. Then, he and the other team members moved the supplies into the truck. Ning Shu was quite strong, so she moved things very quickly. She made several trips. Whenever there were zombies, she would sweep them away, and their brains would explode. There were a lot of supplies in the supermarket. Several trucks were full, but they weren't finished. Hui Jingqing looked at the remaining supplies and felt distressed. He couldn't wait to put all the supplies into the trucks. However, he couldn't pretend anymore. There was nothing he could do. He could only go back to the base, unload the supplies, and drive a few more trucks. Ning Shu saw that Ping and Shun was stuffing things into his space when he was moving things. There were all kinds of things, clothes, and even some expensive wine. Ning Shu pretended that he didn't see it and didn't ask. Zombies came from all directions, especially at the entrance of the supermarket. It was a black mass. Everyone's face was a bit ugly. It was a big problem to break through with so many zombies. Be careful. Everyone, get in the car. Hui Jingqing said. No matter how fast zombies ran, they couldn't be faster than cars. For a moment, there was a rain of bullets, but there were so many zombies that it was hopeless. Ning Shu had the enchantment to hide his scent, so zombies rarely came near him. To zombies, Ning Shu was like air. However, even though Ning Shu was standing with her teammates, there were still zombies that rushed towards her. Ning Shu's shooting speed was very fast, and the accuracy was very high. Using his spiritual power to scan, he found that Ping and Shun couldn't stand it anymore and released the zombies from the space. These zombies suddenly appeared in the zombie crowd and were not conspicuous at all. If it wasn't for Ning Shu's spiritual power, he probably wouldn't have noticed. After these zombies appeared, they twisted the heads of other zombies and even bit them. Ning Shu felt his hands itching. He wanted to shoot the zombies in Ping and Shun. Although these zombies seemed to have become tools for humans now, in the long run, these zombies were even more terrifying than the zombies that only had appetites. They were even unkillable. Let Ping and Shun's zombies kill these zombies first, and then kill them when the crisis was over. Ping and Shun breathed a sigh of relief and subconsciously looked at Ning Shu. Last time, this man killed his zombies. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't pay attention to him at all, he was relieved. It wasn't easy for him to absorb a zombie into his body, but he killed one with a single shot. It wasn't difficult at all, and these obedient zombies needed time. They couldn't become obedient in an instant. If he killed them, his heart would bleed, and he would be heartbroken. Everyone got into the car and stood in the car to kill the zombies. Ning Shu fired a few shots at the zombies near Ping and Shun and killed the zombies beside them. It seemed that these zombies were innocent victims of Ping and Shun's attack. Ping and Shun was speechless. Ping and Shun's face turned pale. Another 5 zombies were gone. Ping and Shun looked at Ning Shu. Ning Shu was still shooting, one shot for one head. Ning Shu certainly didn't miss Ping and Shun's heartbroken expression. It was as if his flesh was being cut. Counting up, he killed almost 10 zombies. 10 zombies wasn't a lot, but with Ping and Shun's current strength, 10 zombies was not a small number for him. Ping and Shun stared at Ning Shu. Was he intentional or not? Why did he kill his zombies twice? Although these zombies could be released and retracted at will, but every time they were released and retracted, Ping and Shun's body would be weak, and his head would hurt. He said that it was because his spiritual power was too weak. One could imagine how angry Ping and Shun was when he lost his zombies. Ning Shu turned his head and looked at Ping and Shun. His hands didn't stop moving. He fired a shot and hit a zombie's head. Why are you looking at me? Is there a zombie's brain on my face? Ning Shu looked at Ping and Shun. Ping and Shun looked away and said, "You seem to be the cleanest person here. You flatter me. You also know that researchers like us are a bit of a cleanliness freak, so we never get close to zombies. If we can attack from a distance, we will never get close." Ning Shu said. Researcher. Ping and Shun's pupils shrank. No wonder he didn't like this person. He had secrets on him, and he was most afraid of meeting this kind of person. He must expose this person, and he must study him to a conclusion. No wonder he didn't like this person, and even faintly rejected him in his heart. It turned out to be a sign of danger. The speed of the train was very fast. They got rid of the zombies chasing them. Even if there were zombies blocking them, they would directly rush over and knock the zombies away or run over them under the wheels. The train was loaded with goods. It was very heavy. When the wheels ran over, only a zombie's skin was left on the ground. Ning Shu sat down beside Ping and Shun. Ping and Shun moved to the side and felt goosebumps all over his body when he was near Ning Shu. Ping and Shun tried to calm himself down and asked, "Since you are a researcher, why did you come out to look for supplies?" Ning Shu looked at Hua Jingqing with a faint smile. Hua Jingqing's expression was cold. He didn't even look at Ning Shu and paid attention to the situation outside the train. Ning Shu said, "I came out to experience life and see if the zombies have mutated." Ping and Shun was speechless. Ning Shu tried to find a topic. "You were lucky to be able to escape from a place with so many zombies. What did you do before?" Ning Shu asked Ping and Shun. Ping and Shun didn't want to talk to Ning Shu at all, but he couldn't ignore him. Moreover, he was a newcomer to the team. Ping and Shun thought that he could control zombies. It was inevitable that he would be discovered later on. He had to think of an excuse. "You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure."